racing on this, the 98th Giro d'Italia. Albenga to Genova, 177 kilometers with a nasty little kicky ramp at the end. One for the quick guys, but they have to be strong. Well, it was team time trial day yesterday. Astana set the early benchmark, and it was a time that looked it may well stand the test of time. The ultimate run for a team against the clock, 90 minutes and 39. Other teams have time trialing abilities as a group, and we're expected to push them close. In the end, only two teams had the bettering of them. One was Tinkoff and Saxo that did an early morning recce, and Oleg Tinkoff himself pointing out some of the more technical sections of the approach to home. They had a good split, and they carried it all the way. Solid and safe, we were expecting their performance to be. In the end, they just missed out on victory. Out-and-out favourites for the stage had to be Orica Green Edge, and so it proved. They are the daddies when it comes to this sort of stuff. On-board footage provided to us afterwards, showing just how smooth these guys are. Smooth as silk, tough as well. And they delivered. Fabulous performance. The only question was, who would cross the line first? Well, they were shelling personnel in a plan, a battle plan, like stages of a rocket, and they delivered with Giro putting a smile on his face after what has been a difficult start to the season for him. He's in pink. Plenty of Prosecco Superiore sprayed on the crowd yesterday. So we go racing. Genova is the destination. 2 laps at the end of the day of around 9 kilometers. It'll be busy. It's also incredibly beautiful. Sunny, as you can see. Temperature 25 Celsius. It feels a little bit warmer than that, particularly in the Palazzo Square at the end of today's stage. You can see our TV compound just next to the pink fountain. So, what is ahead of everybody? We will have a King of the Mountains jersey wearer by the end of today. Points jersey as well. Expected to finish in a sprint. Little loop out of Albenga, then along the coast to Genova. 177 kilometers in total, with a little lump along the way just to give us our mountains class. Once we pass by Savona and destination Genova, we then go on our 9-kilometer loop around town. So we'll see that finish line more than once. So what does it look like in terms of altimetry? Well, the mountain today, not really much more than a sleeping policeman. A traffic calming device, some might say. And indeed, there it comes. Late on, after around 120 kilometers of the run. So still 50 for the catch to be made. And we expect, of course, a breakaway. This is the place we departed from this morning, Albenga. Time to sign on for some pain. Team time trial dispatched, and time for some teams to make up some ground. AG2 Le Mondial finished in 16th place yesterday, so with a deficit of 48 seconds, it's a bit of an ask, especially on a day like today. World champion Philippe Gilbert signing on for glory. It's an uphill ramp at the end. Will it suit him? Well, only if he goes very early, and it may well be controlled by the sprinters' teams. So, what do they think?
Simon, how are you this morning? How did you sleep?
Yeah, I slept really well. Feeling fantastic. It's a beautiful day. It's going to be nice and hot, and I think, you know, we're off to a fantastic start in this Giro, so things couldn't be much better. And
is there a clear plan for today? I imagine there is.
Yeah, obviously we have a clear plan for today. Yeah, with the looking like a sprint finish and a fairly flat finish, Michael Matthews will be our man today, so I don't anticipate getting too involved in the bunch sprints. Hopefully Michael will be up there.
It's a fairly flat sprint today, so it suits a rider like Andre Grappel a bit more than me. Yeah, we'll be out there trying to go for the stage win, and yeah, the stage who has the Maria Rosa out of me and Gerrans. But yeah, if I'm up there for the sprint, I should take the jersey.
Sprints are always a nice thing in a Grand Tour. There are not so many in the beginning of this race, so we have to take our chances.
Luca Mesquez, you won the last bunch sprint in the Giro d'Italia, another one today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be back here, and I trained good for this year's event, so I'm looking forward to today.
The team will be pulling at the front. Ji Cheng, the breakaway killer.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to control the race. There's a big favorite, Andre Greipel, today, so we will adjust the plan, and yeah, we go for the win for sure.
Plenty of teams with plenty of options, and indeed quite a few with more than 30 seconds to make up. That was really the cut-off point yesterday, I think you might say, at the halfway mark of that team time trial. Some big names further down the order. Team Lotto, Bardiani, Le Mondial, Giant Alpecin with a terrible time trial. None worse, it seems, of the big names than Lampre, Merida, Cannondale, Garmin as well, licking their wounds after yesterday. So the leader's jersey on the back of Simon Gerrans, and away they went in the sunshine. Sharp shadows, as you can see. So a beautiful start to today. Just 2 jerseys awarded, both of them, of course, belonging to Orica Greenwich. Michael Matthews, still a young man with a great future, a great long road ahead of him. Today, just 177 kilometres of the pack. So, sprint finish in the offing. It seems that not too many have actually realised that there's a proper ramp. At the end of the day, sprinters or quick men talking about a flat finish, but it's a little bit more than that, as they will find out. At least they'll get a preview, because we have 2 laps, so 3 passages across the finish line. As they rolled out this morning, though, that seemed an awful long way away, and well, the punches started rolling almost immediately. Lotto Jumbo were determined to be up there, and Bert Jan Lindemann has made it up into the breakaway. CCC Sprandi Polkovici in their bright orange also up there. Lukasz Ozvian is part of it, and it seems that everyone was rather pleased that it was set early. It means that it's a bit of a tapping pace only for the boys in the peloton, and of course the leader's jersey. Marco Frapporti of Androne also up there, and it has a bit of an Italian flavour to it as well. Lipovini Fantini with Bellato also up the road, and Zupa of Albania in Team Southeast. And remember, not in the grey, or they would have said silver anymore, but a white accented jersey, and there he is. So, the overall standings, no surprises. Of course, it is on the back of Orica Greenwich at the moment, bossing the front. This will change as sprint bonuses start to factor in. 10, 6 and 4 seconds available at the line. So should somebody from Tinkoff Saxo decide that it was going to be their day and win the day, the 10 seconds would, of course, help them an awful lot. For now, Simon Gerrans is our leader. Michael Matthews with some options, and I think possibly more leaves to be the case. It is an uphill ramp at the end. We'll see how he copes. He's usually very good at that sort of thing. This is the Young Riders classification. Michael Matthews does lead that on the same time as his, a couple of his teammates who also share that youthful scenario. Hepburn and Chavez, their choice for the mountains. Aru, the best of the rest. This is the final kilometre. Now, from about 600 metres mark, it really does kick up. Check it out right now, just as we pass one of the barrier vans here. And this is where the kick really starts. It's not going to be as easy as many of the fast men think. They won't necessarily have their own party. And about now, about 300 metres to go, it's going to be a bit of a leg sapper. Dan Lloyd, this could be a surprise to some.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit of a surprise to me. In the road book, it does look flat, and that's why every sprinter and every team with a sprinter in is talking about a very fast, flat. It's by no means a mountain, of course, and it's not even really a super steep climb, but it's enough and it's long enough just to sap perhaps the speed of some of the teams, the lead-outs, and we could see perhaps an Andre Greipel struggle as we get towards the top, and it might suit the likes of Michael Matthews perhaps a little bit more than we were expecting before we came here to the finish today.
Well, one man who did come to the finish line while we wait to hook up with our live pictures was a guy carrying an awful lot of pink dye. It seems that every fountain is at his mercy at the finish line. In Genova, while we just wait to get our live transmission, you can just dip in and see what sort of festival goes on here. Little kids have their own little races. They are little as well. It's about 100 metres. But nonetheless, they do find themselves with kind of a prize and a bit of recognition. And of course, they get on the podium as well. And that's a nice place to be, as you can see. So smiles all round. It really is a festival that they engage with here, Dan. And I know certainly you've been looking at some of these scaled down with a little bit of envy, wishing that they'd been around when you were a kid.
Yeah, and even for my very own children, in fact. They are getting a little bit more popular in the States and over in the UK and Australia, etc., but still reasonably difficult to find a really good little road bike for kids. Much easier mountain bikes, of course, but they seem to be in abundance over here. And so for the last few years since we started commentating at the Giro, I've been looking, as you said, with envy at some of the kids' bikes, because they're just perfectly miniature copies of the road bikes that we all ride as adults, and they do look fantastic. It makes such a big difference to a child to have a bike that fits them, is comfortable, they can reach the brakes, easily change the gears, etc. And yeah, they've got a great variety of them over here in Italy.
And indeed go quickly, as you can see, and on our static cams here while we try and hook up the relay. not the elegant sprinting style, but young Alberto Marini did a good job there.
Well, he was on a Cervelo, no expense spared by his parents for that sprint win.
And his time, yeah, well, about 8 seconds. Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Yeah,
for
they're not true endurance events at this age. But it's great to have the kids' races. I did hear a rumour that they were going to stop them at some point, but great to see that they're still here. Obviously, it's a huge race for them, despite it being so short, to race in front of a crowd with the TV cameras on them, and they'll be very pleased that the live coverage is not up of the actual race yet. They're getting their bit of TV time, and very pleased they will be about that.
All right, well, and he unclipped, and now look, heads down. I'll tell you, there's going to be some tears into the pasta later on, I think, for that boy. It looks like he has quite a big bowl of it.
Team inquiry into the use of a certain manufacturer of pedals, I think, after that.
Yeah, I think what's called for is, I don't know, Velcro in a situation such as that. Well, we're still waiting, I'm afraid to tell you, for our live pictures to get hooked up. So the Junior Sportif goes on. Meanwhile, let's talk about our breakaway, shall we? I love the way when we haven't got any pictures, they show us people trying to get pictures. There we are. He looked really, really stressed about it, just as obviously you can hear we are as well. So we wait on. Gives us a chance to have a chat to some of you on Twitter. Don't forget that you can hook up with us on Twitter at Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby, or that's Daniel Lloyd 1, DANIELLLOYD. So 3 L's in the middle. He's also got Llewellyn and William in his name, so he's not short of L's. Nonetheless. Tell you what I don't understand, says Don Kirkham. Other than Wiggle Honda, are there any auto manufacturers sponsoring teams these days? car manufacturers, they are starting to be tempted. Jaguar's sort of got a whiff of it at the moment.
Yeah, well, almost every team has some kind of sponsor to provide them with their cars for the season. Skoda have, of course, been very heavily involved over the last number of years throughout Europe and the Tour of Britain, etc., and with a number of teams as well. Jaguar are probably the most high-profile, I'd say, of all of the manufacturers of cars who do sponsor teams. They try and make the most out of their sponsorship.
They are named as well with Drapac, aren't they?
I'm not sure, actually.
Yes, they are. You Drapac Porsche, now it's Drapac Jaguar.
Really?
Yeah, they are, yeah.
I didn't know that. Anyway, I know that when teams go abroad to Australia or to California, etc., that they, make a huge effort in terms of wrapping the cars, making them look very professional, etc. So they seem to get a reasonable amount back from their sponsorship. And of course, they make those kind of one-off cars. We saw one last year, a very sporty-looking thing with 2 TT bikes in a special rack on the back, and draws a lot of attention to it.
You had to bring wrapping into it somehow, didn't you? So we wait. We've got some lovely pictures at the finish line. See, feast for the eyes.
So still waiting to receive our live pictures here. Stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia from Albenga to Genoa, 110 miles. There is a 4-man lead-out group, by the way. 112 kilometers remaining. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. You're watching the Giro d'Italia on Bein Sports. Ongoing coverage here of the Giro d'Italia 2015 from Albenga to Genoa. It's a 177 kilometer stage, 110 miles. 65 kilometers have already been covered, and there's a 4-man lead out with about a 9-minute advantage between them and the peloton. We send it now to Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd for your call. It's the Giro d'Italia on Bein Sports.
Step down to, I think it was a Rabobank Espoir or development squad, which is always a difficult thing to do, to take a step backwards in any career, I guess, but in cycling it really means you need to stay motivated and stay motivated on the smaller races when you're used to racing World Tour on TV a lot, etc., etc. It can, for some people, myself included, actually be hard to take a step down and do what you feel are smaller races, even if it's hard. Very hard still to win them, but that's exactly what he did. He took a step down, he won a few reasonable sized races in front of World Tour squads, and now he's back in the World Tour again. Slightly surprised actually to see him in the breakaway, because as you said, Carlton, he has got a very, very decent palmares. He's a good rider, and I just would have expected him to save himself for stages where he could have, at least a hope of staying away until the finish and fighting it out for a stage win.
The first stage of racing proper on the Giro d'Italia, and as you can see, beautiful sunshine, virtually no wind, and the ocean looking like a mill pond. We're going from Albenga to Genova, 177 kilometers in total. We've got a breakaway, 5 hopefuls, the best of them, Bart-Jan Lindemann of Lotto Jumbo in the yellow. Meanwhile, everyone else just tapping it out for the time being, and the gap has extended. It's over 9 minutes at the last reading. We're just waiting for the transponders to come back up, but it's a healthy gap for the breakaway, one that inevitably, surely, is destined to end in failure, because this is a sprinter's day. How much of a pure sprinter's day? Well, there's a ramp at the end. They have to take it on a couple of occasions. Third time across the line, they will finish as they loop around the glorious city of Genova. Departure point for Christopher Columbus, they say. And of course, the patron saint of this city is St. George, who slayed a dragon. Who's going to be in that role today? Well, you'll find out. You're live here on the Giro. It's a beautiful part of the world. The Ligurian coast, absolutely magical. There's mountains that tumble down to the sea, so you don't get many sandy beaches, mainly rocks, but it means that the ocean is crystal clear. It's not that clear as to who's going to win today.
No, I think it's far from clear. I think we all agreed amongst commentators, amongst journalists, amongst people that do lots of previews and are very much expert in predicting what might happen on each stage. We were all very much in favour of Andre Greipel. Should he get his positioning right? That's often his downfall. Slightly more scared perhaps than the likes of Kittel and Mark Cavendish when it comes into the last 2 or 3 kilometres and things get a little bit dangerous. However, with the finish being, as it is, slightly harder than I think we all expected. Certainly Cedric Vasseur, our colleague just down the commentary box from France and Bein Sports, France doesn't think that Greipel has a chance because he thinks it's that hard. I'm not inclined to agree completely with him. I think Andre is a very, very strong rider. At the end of the day, it's 600 metres, so at the speeds they're going, it's only going to take them around about 40 seconds. And he's certainly a guy who's got 40 seconds of very high effort and still able to sprint at the end. But I guess the peloton will very much be deciding as they do these laps who it suits. And I think, as we said at the top of the programme, Michael Matthews actually could be one of the big favourites. I mean, he was in the top 5 or 6 favourites in terms of betting this morning anyway, but given that it is slightly uphill, it just seemed to suit him slightly more than we perhaps originally thought.
So, a couple of lumps along the way today. We do have a King of the Mountains jersey to be contended with as well. Yeah, we will have our first wearer of the King of the Mountains jersey at the end of today. We've got a 4th category climb along the route. Hasn't been contested yet, so it'll be one of the 5 men up the road who will be fighting out for that. And I'm assuming there will be quite a big fight for it, because despite the fact that it's unlikely they'll hold on to it particularly long throughout this Giro, it's always good to be in a jersey at least for one day. I would have loved it. Yeah, well, why not? You know, me too. In fact, I wore the jersey just as much as you did over this career. The Ligurian coast is where we're dealing, and this is Finale Liguri. Presumably that's bye-bye Liguria once we get out of here. It is quite simply spectacular. If statues and public works of art count as culture, then I've got to tell you that Italy has got 80% of the world's culture. You just can't go anywhere here without finding something ancient and Roman. Dan Lloyd faces that even at the breakfast table. I thought I'd get that in early. 93.7 kilometres, little less than that now to deal with. But just look how tropical it looks. You've got palm trees here. There's even a coconut harvest, for goodness sake. They don't taste quite as sweet as if they came from the Bahamas. But nonetheless, it has very much a summertime feel. And the Italians yesterday came out of the commentary position and sort of went into sun-worshipping mode and just said, "This is Italy. What do you have in London? A rain?" I said, "No, actually, it's quite nice at the moment. But anyway, I'll give it to you." in terms of weather, this is the place to be. And the lovely stucco buildings that you see, scorched off with paint. Even it seems badly painted buildings look absolutely gorgeous. It sort of tells you that there's some extremes of temperature today. No extremes of terrain. For those of you looking for the mountains, they're still to come. It does get a little bit rude quite early in this race, however, Dan Lloyd. We go climbing quite quickly, don't we? Yeah, tomorrow sounds like a really tough stage. When you look at it on the road book, it's another one of those ones that you think could possibly end up in a reasonable sized sprint. Perhaps not the entire peloton, but you know, sprinters seem to be getting better and better at climbing. And when you look at the fact that the last major climb comes some way from the finish, you think, well, the teams and the sprinters have got time to get themselves together again, pull any breakaways or attacks that have gone up the road back into the fold and set up another sprint. However, I know that Matthew White, the Orica Green Edge manager, took the riders over the final 100 Ks or so a couple of days ago, and it does sound very, very tricky indeed. Some of the favourites for today: Michael Matthews, Nizzolo, Eli Viviani, who goes very quickly, maybe more of a pure sprinter, but why not Nizzolo today? And indeed Michael Matthews. I think the lumpy nature of it, he's probably got more chance than he believed possible. You heard at the top of the day he was talking about it really being one for the quick men. He is fast, but he can also take an incline very well indeed. Don't count out the likes of Tom Bonan either from Ethics Quickstep. There are others, Meersman perhaps, and Ruffoni from Bardiani. They've got an option. Expect the men in lime green to suddenly show their hand. Mezgec, who we've aforementioned. Greipel does have a good lead out with the likes of Hansen and Henderson to his credit.
Well, we're riding along the Mediterranean coast here. It's stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia. We're down to 92 kilometers left to go, but still a lot of racing to do on the day. Of course, Orica Green Edge setting the pace yesterday. Simon Gerrans in the pink jersey. We'll be right back on Bein Sports. Welcome back. It's stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia here on Bein Sports. We're about 80 kilometers left in the race today. The Maglia Rosa group, the peloton, 8 minutes and 23 seconds behind the 4 leaders out today: Bert-Jan Lindemann, Ugo Jupa, Giacomo Berlato, and Lucas Ausian. Simon Gerrans is your your pink jersey holder, and your white jersey young rider is Michael Matthews, who is actually one of the favorites today. Let's send it back down to Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd now. It's stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia.
You know, they could have taken big steps forward, especially as our mind is turned to the youth of Poland that are starting to come very, very good indeed. And they've made some weird choices. Thankfully, those who've come along here, you know, I'm happier with the turnout, let's put it that way.
Well, I kind of agree with you in some ways, but in others, should they really be seen as any different to Pelizzotti and Basso, who are here? Two Italians with a past themselves, not really any different to Rebellin, who seems to be viewed as the devil in comparison, even in Italy. I did hear rumours, actually, that their entry as a wildcard into this race, CCC, was on the basis that they didn't bring either of those two, but it does seem quite contradictory, really, when you look at a couple of the riders who are still here. Anyway, probably best not to dwell on that. They've got a very good squad here. They've got a brand new bus, which is apparently the biggest in the peloton, built specifically for the team. So they've got big ambitions here, because they've got Petersky, who is extremely strong at the moment. He won Croatia, he won a stage as well. He won a stage in Catalonia the day after Milan-San Remo, which is an incredible feat, really, given that he'd just done 300 Ks, driven along to the next race, and then got into the breakaway and took the stage. So he's got an engine on him, that's for sure.
There's a chap on a zip wire. I don't know if you noticed. There he is, just on the left-hand side of your screen. He was hanging around trying to get on telly, I think, but because he sort of blended in with the rock, I think he should have been wearing CCC Sprelli Polivici or Bardiani jersey. We didn't see him at all, so great idea, but he blew it down.
Didn't get his TV time like the kids this morning.
No, exactly.
Well, this afternoon.
Rock on, kids. 87.7, 8 minutes and 20. And there are Southeast. There they are, with Pataki as part of their number. If Pataki has a sniff, then Italy sneezes, and we just wait to see whether he'll be there. Believe me, the cameras will be loving him a bit later on. Look how blue this looks. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a lovely day, isn't it? We've had some pretty bad weather in the Giro over the last couple of years. I remember going down to Bari, of course, from Dublin last year, and it wasn't cold by any means, but the rain came down and riders were like skittles all over the place on that circuit. So they'll be pleased to get things off under nice weather conditions, which is kind of what I remember from my first participation at the Giro. It was actually extremely hot back in 2009 when I did it, up to 40 degrees in the middle part of the race. Almost too hot in some ways, but much better than raining, you have to say.
Just about anything's better than rain, to be honest. Took the precaution of bringing along some wet weather shoes. They're particularly horrid. I won't mention the brand because I've just said how horrid they are, but I'd really love to put them in the bin, but I just can't justify buying any more. So yeah, I sort of put on these shoes from the disco era. They're not pretty, but they do a job when it rains. No rain in sight for the moment. It might well be that they do find the bin by the end of this particular Giro d'Italia. 86.7 kilometres to go. 8 minutes, 8 minutes and 14. Yeah, Dan sort of walks 10 yards behind me when I'm wearing them. And it just ridicule, frankly. Thanks, by the way, for everyone who's joining us. Who's Your Madness is in the house. Bruce Masterson, Martin Van Gazzini as well. Good to have you guys commentating, he says. Have you tried the Italian pocket coffees yet? We try them on a regular basis. Haven't actually partaken this year. Our main focus food-wise last night was a rather challenging menu. I put up on Twitter a picture of what I ordered. I asked for crab meat pasta, and what I got was pasta and a crab. It looked like he was guarding it. It didn't last long. I had a pair of pincers with me, which did the job with his claws. Absolutely delicious it was too. Washed down with a fantastic bottle of wine. Pigato, it was called, is the region where that wine came from. I'm constantly stunned at how good Italian wine is. It's just, I don't know, maybe they just drink most of it themselves. We don't seem to get it in Britain, the best stuff anyway. And it's a delight. I'm always shocked as well to find out how many good white wines there are in Italy. Yes, I know about the fizzy stuff as we come into Nolli. Sounds like a children's entertainer. And here he is, lonely children. I've departed from the script now.
Yeah, it always surprises me how nice the Italian limoncello grappa and beer is as well. But anyway, I ordered a vegetable and pasta soup last night, and I got vegetables and pasta, basically. A small amount of liquid, but it was very nice. I think I was saying yesterday, wasn't it? I always get a lack of vegetables when I'm in Italy because I just have pizza, pasta, and meat and whatever else. And I seem to get very few greens or fruit, so I'm going to make a determined effort to drink lots of red and white wine for the grapes over the next 3 weeks.
Talking of grapes, our sound engineer here today provided with our lunch. It was a what can only be described as a fruity rock cake. I suppose you could wear a T-shirt with that on, Dan. And a bunch of grapes, and then ate them like Caesar. I don't know, why do you have to eat them like that?
I don't know.
No, it just looks good. That's Dan all over, frankly. But yeah, the grapes went down an absolute treat. They were enormous as well. In American money, about an inch across. So a meal in themselves. So we didn't have any lunch today, possibly because I've still got the crab reminding me that he's on board.
The veg is still keeping me going.
84.6 kilometres to go. We'll open a window. Actually, we can't because there's a disco rocking nearby, as you can possibly hear. Francis Tiger, French representation is a bit thin on the ground when it comes to the Giro d'Italia. Always used to be like that, and then a couple of years ago they sort of got very, very interested. It seems to have waned again, I'm afraid. Francis Tiger here with Genier's, as we've just seen Kevin Retzer as well. I don't really see any days where they're going to set the world on fire. They'll probably win today.
Yeah, well, Reza's not too bad when it comes to a fast finish, particularly when it's uphill, but I think he'll be outshone at the end of today's stage. We've got AG2R here as well, if you want to pronounce it in the local dialect. No. They've got a couple of French riders here. Julien Berard is here, along with Alex Dumont.
To be one of those people on the beach enjoying the Giro in Italia right now. 84 kilometers left to go in stage 2. Still a 5-man lead-out group. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. You're watching Bein Sports. The riders in Spatorno here, riding along the Mediterranean Sea, 82 kilometers from the finish line. The gap is starting to close. It's closed by a minute in the last 10 minutes or so. The Maglia Rosa group, 7 minutes and 56 seconds behind 5 leaders. Marco Frapporti, Bert-Jan Lindemann, Ugo Jupa, Giacomo Berlato, and Lucas Ausian. We now send you back to Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd, stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia on Bein Sports.
It's okay on these very, very smooth roads when you've got a complete closed road and nobody in front of you, but a little bit dangerous to do that in training. Here's Giovanni Visconti, a rider who won a couple of stages here at Giro 2 years ago in 2013, and one of 5 Movistar riders who've won stages at the Giro in the past. I did say that Carlos will bore you with Vinchalci over the next 3 weeks. I'm sure he's about to mention him now.
No, you can do that later. Here we come to a rocky knoll with one of these little... they were actually beacon stations, would you believe? And they kept some dry straw knocking around. And whenever they saw incoming enemy ships, they'd light the beacon. You can just almost imagine them scuffling with the tinderbox, trying to light it on a rainy day. Anyway. When we get into Genoa later on, you're gonna see, now kids, don't get too excited. Genova, yeah. When kids don't get too excited, there's a pirate ship. Yeah, they rebuilt one. These guys just taking on their little feeds, as you can see. No grog in there or gruel, but yeah, you'll get the point later on. Neptune is on the forecastle. It is a forecastle, isn't it, the front of the boat? I hope so. I'll have to check that. Anyway, through the feed zone they go. I wonder what they've got. It's not going to be pasta and crab, mate.
Always a hectic part of the race is the feed zone. Luckily today there's not particularly any stress in the peloton. 7.5 minutes the gap. They will have to go reasonably quickly to bring them back into the fold, but as I said, sprinters teams will come to the fore soon enough and that gap will come tumbling down. But yeah, feed zone's always hectic because you have to be on one side of the road or the other. When you're in Europe and states And anywhere where you drive on the right-hand side of the road, the soigneurs must stand on the right, and you have to try and dart over there, often overlapping other people's wheels in order to get your feedback. If you're in the UK, I'm not sure actually what the deal is in the Tour Down Under where they drive on the left, but in the UK, I know in the Tour of Britain, you have to feed on the left, which is actually quite difficult to do when you've spent years and years of your life grabbing a bottle or a feed bag with your right hand to suddenly go over to the left. And it's exactly the same for if you have a puncture or a mechanical. Over here, you need to stop on the right-hand side of the road, and you'll get a fine if you stop on the other side. In the Tour of Britain and a few other races, you'll need to stop on the left-hand side of the road. So some very, very interesting trivia for you there.
Yeah, well done, Dan. You
should have saved that for later in the race.
Yeah, well, you've blown it now. Bruce Masterson says he's thrilled. Do you know why he's thrilled? He's thrilled because he's hearing us in America, or as the great Kent Gordis would call it, Merca, just M-E-R-K-A. Yeah, he describes himself as American. Great Kent, he's a good lad, works with us throughout Europe, and I think he's watching in now, so I'm giving him a little wave. He's probably just spat out his bagel, which he's fond of. 80 point, he's New Yorker. 80.3 kilometres to go, 7 minutes and 45. It's about timing today. Oh, we're just passing one of those private beaches where people can walk along the tide line. There we are. No need to pay, but you might get damp when the tide comes in. Today, about control, Dan, when are they going to take control today?
Well, I think they probably feel that they are already in control. As I said, it's just Luke Durbridge riding on the front, and such a great rider. In fact, he was developing into almost a GC rider for some slightly smaller races earlier on in his career. Doing a bit of research on him the other day, and he won Poitou-Charentes, I think Circuit de la Sarve back in 2011. He developed into a reasonable climber, and I was wondering whether perhaps if he lost a little bit more weight, whether he would continue on that upward path and start to worry a few of the other guys in the mountains in a kind of Bradley Wiggins style, because he's always been a very, very strong time trial. He's a former national champion in Australia. He's won other races here in Europe as well. He's a key part, of course, of the team time trial squad as well. He's been here at the Giro the last 2 years. They've won both times. So he's just sat on the front. He'll be putting out 300 watts plus and probably increase that at some point. Oh, he's got some help now. Have a look. Oh, we've got the guy that we call the breakaway killer. I've heard Matt Rendell at the start of our programme interviewing Luka Mezec. Ji Cheng is the rider who's come up to help Luke Durbridge on the front from Giant Alpecin. So we've got two guys now sharing the workload behind that group of 5, and the gap now 7 minutes and 30 seconds or thereabouts.
So, about strategy and about winding it in, it does take some time for a day such as today to reveal itself to us, but I think one thing is certain, that the breakaways aren't going to make it. They do have hopes, as Dan was saying, later on as we get deeper.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. It tends to get easier the deeper we get into a race, but fatigue, I think early fatigue as well, and a retrievable situation as far as teams are concerned. They sort of don't mind lending the jersey, I think that's the way of putting it, early on, knowing that they can take time when it comes to mountain stages proper and some of the real high mountains that are still to come. And we've got some pretty meaty climbs on this Giro d'Italia.
Yeah, we have. Perhaps not quite as meaty as we've seen in the last couple of years, but yeah, certainly the last week is going to be very, very testing indeed, particularly coming after that long time trial which we've got on stage 14. It's something we don't see quite as much as we used to. There seems to be more teams that want to control things, want to bring things back for various reasons. But as you said, Carlton, it was a little old tactic really. If you had, as a GC rider, if you're one of the favourites for the race and you happen to take the leader's jersey, whether that be in the Vuelta, the Tour de France or here at the Giro, it would be quite nice for you as a team to allow somebody else to take that jersey, somebody who wouldn't be able to get up the high mountains, and that meant that another team would control things for a week or so, leaving you to save energy for when it really mattered. So Contador is actually in a position where he could well find himself in the pink jersey reasonably early on, he or one of his teammates, and so that might be something that happens. Tinkoff Saxo will want to save energy for later on in the race, and if they can possibly pass the jersey on, should that happen to somebody else, then I'm sure they'll take it.
Just passing the spectacular boat lifting cranes. It was actually a weapon of war. Well, actually, it was a weapon of defence. Go and look at ancient boat lifting device. You'll see what I mean. Yeah, and I think it used to protect one of the ports around here in Italy. I don't think it was Genoa, but it may well be wrong. Chirico, that's a happy name for a little fella. Yeah, they do seem to have a preponderance of short of stature riders. But this is Bardiani, and I'm expecting them to provide us with some royal entertainment later on. Certainly me. And if it comes to fruition, then I think it'll be me buying the beers tonight. Colbrelli could go well when it's a bit lumpy. Likewise, Enrico Bacdaglin, who took a stage into Orpa. That was quite a tough day, and in fact, I've had a little wager on Bataglin to be a feature towards the end. Likewise, Nico Ruffoni, who I think could go well. He went close in the Tour of Britain, and you know, he's one of those that sort of functions under many people's radars, but Ruffoni can take it to the big boys on occasion.
Yeah, I think today's finish might be a little bit too tough for him in going slightly uphill. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm looking at Colbrelli a little bit myself, actually, because he's actually no stranger to success on the finish we've got here. I believe it's the same finish as the Giro del... Oh, I shouldn't have started that.
Well,
a one-day race.
Call it the
a one-day race in Italy. I have written it down somewhere.
Apolonio?
No, that's a rider. Apennino, Giro dell'Apennino, which I believe finishes on exactly the same one that we've got today, albeit over a hillier course, so it was a much reduced peloton in comparison to what we'll have at the end of the day, but he still won it. It was still a sprint amongst 30 or 40 riders, so yeah, they've always got options, have Bardiani. We saw that last year. We had 3 wins from them from 3 different riders. Similar really for them this year. They've got all sorts of options over the next 3 weeks, and well, why not start with today? Excuse me. I should continue talking whilst you choke. Here we've got an intermediate sprint coming up, so the riders just teeing themselves up for that. There was a little bit of toing and throwing and not doing too much work, but can't exactly see. It looks like the Andronio, I think.
Oh, you're right. There we are. I was just teeing myself up for it, and yeah, there we are. He's got himself 3-second bonus.
And a few points.
Won't do much good, though.
I actually need to swat up on the rules because we were late getting the rule book, and I haven't looked at all of the different classification of jerseys, of which there are always a lot at the Giro. For Porti, 1 minute and 41 down, so he's found some seconds, but it's about points as well. And lunging for the line there was Bert-Jan Lindemann, the man who won the Tour de l'Ain in 2014. Tour de l'Ain. There we are. I'll still call it Lane. This is the main site of the Sistine Chapel in Savona. I'll let you read that Eisteddfod bit of poetry that they've provided for us. They are a bit long-winded, but nonetheless, it is quite an outstanding little part of the world, this, and we'll see Pancaldo Tower before you know it. Good old Leon built himself a tower. Oh, and there it is. And a fortified place as well, as you can see, with a monastic background and indeed a fortress to fire things at people who felt like throwing them out. Simple. Tell you something, the Farina Bianca, which is a wheat chickpea flour flatbread, some of the guys went for it last night. I wasn't overly tempted, I must say. It looked rather like, how can I put this, pressed sawdust. Well, I was very stuffed after my vegetables, so I didn't try it.
You and your vegetables, honestly, you think you were sort of denied of vitamins in this part.
Yeah, I need vitamins and nutrients this 3 weeks to counteract other things.
Do you know what? I was speaking to some guys from Zwift, by the way, and they live on pizza.
We are passing through Savona here. 74 kilometers left to go in stage 2 from Albenga to Genoa. 177 kilometers, mostly flat. It's a stage for the sprinters. Still a 6-minute plus gap between the leaders and the peloton. We'll be right back on Bein Sports.
Team Novo Nordisk is a global, all-diabetes sports team of cyclists, triathletes, and runners. Spearheaded by the world's first all-diabetes professional cycling team, our pro team has 18 riders from 11 different countries, all racing with diabetes. We're looking for new teammates to inspire, educate, and empower everyone affected by diabetes. If you or someone you know is racing with diabetes and dreams of being a pro cyclist, please visit teamnovonordisk.com.
Your empire is how the world will remember you. It's where your dreams come to life. But you must not delay. Plan quickly, build quickly, or be destroyed quickly. Will you build an empire that lasts forever? Will you be my hero? Game of War. Play for free now from the App Store.
You're watching Bein Sports, the international sports network.
Uruguay are South America's greatest Copa America country. It is the Charruas of Uruguay who have amassed the greatest number of South American championship crowns, winners at an amazing 15 times. It is their crown to defend again after glorious success in 2011, dispatched amidst the Suarez controversy by the excellent Colombians in the last World Cup. The Gaucho men have renowned grit and determination, but also superlative, gifted footballistas like Cavani, Godin. Creative invention may be a problem for Oscar Tabarez's men, but they are a fist of a team, and they pack a heavy punch when their backs are against the wall and they're in a corner. That is when the Garra Charrua spirit comes out. Make way for Uruguay. Make way for Copa America.
Welcome back to stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia here on Bein Sports. We have just passed through Savona. We are about 20 kilometers away from the day's only categorized climb. It is a Category 4 climb up the Prato Zanino, and that'll be coming up again in about 20 kilometers time. The Maglia Rosa group is back behind a lead of 5, about 6 minutes back. Let's send you back down to race level. You're watching the Giro d'Italia.
Just shadowing him just behind there, around about 4th place.
You know, Fellini is a good option for today, as well as Nozzola. Nozzola's a bit fed up with finishing second too often. I think it was 4 times last year, so he'd like to take a little step forward and maybe just badge himself up for that sprints on points competition. Just looking at Ethics Quickstep, who had a decent enough time trial yesterday, and Bardiani just rolling through across that intermediate line. As you can see, it's sponsored, I think, by a bookmaker. There we are. Not that we have anything to do with bookmakers. There's a team who you would have probably betted would go better than yesterday. Confirmation of how they went through. Those are the time bonuses, 10, 6 and no, they're not. They are the points.
But there's different points, and as I said, I've not perhaps done my job as well as I should have done. There's different sorts of points for different classifications at the same point. So you've got 3, 2 and 1 seconds of bonuses at the intermediate sprints. You've got that 10, 6 and 4, which I think is for the intermediate sprints classification, which is separate from the overall one. I'm just trying to find. Okay, upon crossing each intermediate sprint.
He's reading now.
This is stage, dangerous. According to the crossing order to the stage category, the following points will be awarded. 8 category stages. First 8 classified. So that will be today.
Do you want to read it and then get back to it?
So we've got 20, 12, 8, 6, 4, 3, 2 and 1. So there were 3, 2 and 1 points available for the peloton. And trying to look it up, I actually didn't see who went over. I think we weren't looking at it, were we? We were looking at
the camera pulled away.
The Bardiani ride.
Yacht envy. It's a nasty thing. They are building material hoppers, by the way, in case you're wondering what those rather strange-looking things are. It's no sort of nuclear device launching system. No, that's to get your aggregates onto sea barges to take them around and build castles somewhere else. 70.7. You get it all here. We came into Genoa, and I was talking down through the coastline. We passed by some buildings. I said, that's a maritime college, surely, because it looks exactly like it does in Greenwich, where the mean time, where you can stand, incidentally, on the east and the west of the meridian. So you can find yourself split between the east and west if you wish. Tourists do that sort of thing. But nonetheless, Dan's just taking an in-vision picture. Just had to remember to pull in my belly. I've done that. 17, he'll catch me out later. I think he's tweeting it. Dangerous. It might put you off your lunch. These guys still out there, and with a healthy gap of 6 minutes, but with 70 kilometres to go, I think they're going to have their fun. Is one of these a birthday boy? I was earlier on.
No, I think there are two. One is Stig Brooks, I think, from Lotto Soudal. And then there was an Italian rider who had a birthday as well, whose name I forget.
Happy birthday, Stig Brooks. Mauro Finetto. Finetto is a birthday boy. Happy birthday to you. So not Frapporti, but Finetto. We have seen rather a lot of Frapporti who's giving the thumbs up, general sort of hand signs as well. Polite ones, you understand. Back to the camera. Back at you as well, all you at home who are watching in. Great to have your company. Both down under as well as South Africa and the United States. It's a joy to have you on board, to be honest. It's great to know we're not just speaking to Saturn. 6 minutes and 12. And the Maglia Rosa on the back of Simon Gerrans. It's brought him some joy, Dan, on what's been a difficult start to the year.
It certainly has been. He broke his collarbone before he even got started, which meant that he couldn't go to the Tour Down Under, which is won overall 3 times. It was a big loss both for him and Orica Greenedge. And then just as he was making his comeback, he then went to Bianca, which we were at, of course, commentating, and came off there. Oh, that's a dangerous thing to do.
My goodness.
Yeah. I think I'll just get off and do that.
Is he fond of his nail?
For those of you wondering what that is, it's a little speedometer, wireless sensor and plus sensor, and it obviously wasn't quite close to the magnet, close enough to the magnet to pick it up and show me a speed on the screen, and therefore record the distance. But yeah, probably not the best thing to do, try and get your fingers too close to the spokes. Don't try that at home. So yeah, Simon Gerrans, sorry, he went to Strade Bianca and came off there and fractured his wrist, which delayed really his season even more. I think he then went to the Tour of the Basque Country, but wasn't on the form that he'd hoped for in the Ardennes races, so Amstel, Flèche and Liège. Wasn't able to repeat his Liège victory, and so he comes here. Well, he came here without much under his belt this year, which is unusual for Simon Gerrans, who normally has... he's very consistent when it comes to winning the race that he targets. But crossed the line first of his team yesterday. He goes into the pink jersey, and I would imagine will be very much specific stages along the next 3 weeks to target and take a stage win to add to the one that he got here in 2009.
Should Michael Matthews, who wears the young riders jersey, it's in the white then, should he cross the line with a reasonable time today, expect him to go into the leader's jersey, provided there's a gap back to Giro. I don't think he'll gift it to him. Simon Gerrans delighted to have that jersey. It was by arrangement. Quite often you find within a team time trial there is a chosen one who gets to take the jersey, and we've seen on a number of occasions, Dan, that it's gifted to riders almost as appreciation of their efforts within the team.
Yeah, I did try and ask him if it was premeditated, the order in which they crossed the line, but I don't know if he didn't quite hear the question or didn't want to answer it, but he talked about the order in which they were riding during the team time trial. So I'm not sure it was you know, just the sprint at the end, and he happened to be the one with the most left, having sat on, perhaps, I don't know. Or whether they would just decided they wanted to give it to him. I'm sure one of his career goals could be to have won a stage in all 3 Grand Tours, which he's done, and have the leader's jersey in all 3 Grand Tours, of which he's done 2 now. So he only really needs to do the Vuelta, and it'll be an absolutely sterling career. He's won some incredible races over the years, far more, I think, than his physiology would have suggested that he'd done. He's not got a huge engine, he hasn't got the best sprint, he hasn't got the best climbing ability or time trialing ability, but he's just got this punch and this amazing tactical nous. He knows how to save energy, he knows how to get the very best out of himself and make the most of the attributes that he's got, and we see him time and time again cross the line first in very big races.
We're in Varazze, as you can see, or passing by with the usual pastel-coloured churches in this part of the world. It's been a Finnish city for the Giro on 4 separate occasions. Francesco Moset in 1976, Giuseppe De Grandi in 97, Baldi in 2002, and just as Dan Lloyd was getting his cycle legs warmed up, Le Mavel in 2005. Yeah, also the starting place for the Primavera Rosa, the women's race. Women's cycling in Italy, They've been friends of women's cycling for quite some time, and in fact the women's Giro d'Italia for many years was the biggest race on the calendar.
Yeah, it was. They've obviously lost and gained various races over the years, the women. They've got the Tour of California going on as we speak, really. They've done 2 stages, I believe, over there already. The Women's Tour of Britain's really kicking off. The inaugural event was last year. It's moved to a June time slot in the year this year, which is quite good because last year it clashed with this race. I remember it was going on whilst we were up in Belfast and Dublin, commentating over the start of last year's Giro d'Italia. So that's great for women's cycling. They're on TV. They've got a lot of press coverage despite the fact that it did coincide with the Giro d'Italia, and it is really picking up. In some countries, I think you might say more than others. It seems to be the US, Australia, the Anglo countries really that are really taking the women's racing and wanting to watch it, and they're becoming personalities there. Holland to an extent as well, because of course they've got Diana Voss as their kind of superstar. The best cyclist that we have out of men and women at the moment.
Yeah, quite a remarkable record. Colour order, you can see teams just assembling themselves for this approach. Still got 66.2 kilometres to go. In terms of yacht envy, you'll see that the yachts are getting bigger. And yeah, there's some pretty amazing super yachts in the world. It is quite remarkable. You get guys who decide, you know, I don't know, they've had a curtain ring manufacturing business and they've always wanted a yacht, so they get themselves a half-decent yacht. You've got every division up to plutocrat who really do, and oligarchs who just have the most modern and slightly gauche, I've got to say, boats that have discos and helipads and all kinds of stuff. That's the second time I've mentioned disco today. Yeah, it's in my head, I don't know why. I've got the rhythm, or the moves. Actually, none of both. Here we are, a little bit of a kick-off with an intermediate sprint that's come very thick and fast. Yeah, they really want to sort these out.
They have got 2 in very quick succession. It's not long after this one which we get to the KOM point, a 4th category climb. They'll go over a little lump just after this intermediate sprint, and then they'll descend slightly, and then they've got the climb of the day. It goes up 200 metres in elevation. The KOM is at the top, of course.
Frapporti's having fun out there, and he's assembling points good and proper, I think. Let's have a quick look at this one, shall we? Nice little kick where he needed to, and just denying Bart Jan Lindemann at the line. So Androni Zijdemek, yeah, doing a good job. Max points so far. So 10, 6, 3, 2, 1, and the remainder. So we'll see how the pack take it on yet again. So just coming up to our first climb of the day as well. It's sort of thick and fast at this point as we approach the laps which make up the end of the day.
Well, we've just passed our second sprint of the day, and Marco Frapporti seems to be in line to put on the points classification jersey by the end of today. If all holds up, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. You're watching Bein Sports. Welcome back to stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia here on Bein Sports. We've passed our 2 intermediate sprints today, and it's been Androni Zijdemek, the team being sported up front by Marco Frapporti, who has picked up most of the points today in the sprinting. We are approaching our only categorized climb of the day, the Prato Zanino, and that will be coming up in just about 10 kilometers or so. Let's send it back down to the race. You're watching Bein Sports coverage of the 98th edition of the Giro d'Italia.
You've gone beardy as well. Keeping it nicely trimmed, I must say.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah,
it takes some effort. You have to be vain to do that.
Yeah, I think the next time, there was Jack Bernicle, erstwhile motorsport and motorcycling commentator. Oh look, yacht envy. It's getting more enviable. Look at this. We're getting to the bigger yachts. It's when the real estate gets more expensive, the yachts get bigger. And those guys who did own a curtain ring manufacturing business are now giving away to people who were CEOs of banks. So not quite national controllers or indeed international plutocrats, but you'll get those a little bit further down the coast. Or are we getting too far away from Monaco now? I'm not sure. There is a pecking order. Likewise with the sprint teams and Trek Factory Racing, they like these intermediate. And they're finally heading out for yet another one.
Yeah, well, they bossed the last one. They actually didn't have any competition at all. They rolled across in 6th, 7th and 8th position with Nzola, the best of them. He picked up 3 points for the points competition by doing that. As I said, I had to quickly look up exactly what the situation was, but 8 people across the line get points on the sprint, which includes today, of course. Looks, though, as though we might have Viviani sat on the back of him this time, have it all his own way, but certainly appears Nzola is... of all the riders in the peloton, one of the most motivated when it comes to points for that jersey. You know, it's clever stuff to pick these up early on, and the teams will have been on the radio and said, for goodness sake, start contesting these, and that's why Viviani's come to join the party. Doesn't want to get a deficit too early on. You can lose that jersey by just a handful of points. Just ask Mark Cavendish. He's always been busy early on, Mark Cav. He's not here this time by, but that will go down as a victory for Sky, I think, and just stopping Trek assembling those. He looked ready to spit, frankly. Well, I was laughing because he had his poker face on for the camera. Like, that was just so easy. Yeah. I don't know actually who got it. We didn't get a side view. You think Viviani? Yeah. I think it was close. Ahead of Nizzolo. Yeah, exactly. You wait. There'll be bragging rights about this later on for us as well as they or them. 62.3 kilometres, 4 minutes 39. It's sort of livened things up a bit, these little punchy sprints coming quick and fast. And we've got the climb coming up. We have, but the climb doesn't carry so many points as the sprint, or for so many riders at least. It's only a 4th category, so we'll only see that fought out amongst the 5 men still up the road. For those of you who are just joining us, let's remind you who is up the road. They had a maximum time gap of just under 10 minutes. We've got Frapporti of Androni. From CCC, we've got Alzian, how did you say him? Nippo of Bellato, Southeast has Zupa. Ovzian is Polish. Ovzian. And Bert-Jan Lindemann from Team Lotto NL Jumbo. Those are the 5 guys up the road. What did I say? You said Lindemann, but it's Lindemann. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. They don't care. Here's the magic spanner. They've been trying to do away with this. This is an actual spanner, not a magic one. This is a real spanner, as opposed to a magic spanner. Magic spanner, a phrase created by myself, not actually put under patent. So you'll hear it elsewhere, but it is one of mine. There we are. At this time, not a magic spanner. Magic spanner being sort of illicit help while they pretend to adjust the brakes, but this time it was actually for real. Chirico, the cheery old fella, and just given his own water bottle this time by, as opposed to being on duty for others. Oh, we had a magic moment in Turkey again, by the way, you would have loved, where somebody up with bottles which suddenly rolled into a sprint. There's Viviani, bragging rights. Oh yeah. He stacked up with bottles and then suddenly had to engage in a sprint. He was supposed to be drifting back and handing out bottles to his teammate. So his team stacked him up, and then he went Jellyman styling. A bit like me contesting one of those. Well, he was sprinting. He didn't offload the bottles before. No, he couldn't. It suddenly came upon him, and away he went, jiggling all over the place. Which team was that? I think it was CCC actually. Okay. But yeah, I'll live to be corrected. 60.8. You live to be corrected. Yeah, that's why I live for. You have to look at Twitter. No wonder you make so many mistakes. This is the Maglia Rosa group. Yeah, we'll paper over that. 5 minutes and 7 seconds. We'll cut that out at the highlights. Don't worry. 60 kilometres to go. We got a 5-man breakaway who are busy engaging in the intermediate sprints. Frapporti has dealt with or taken the lion's share of those points. We're just coming up to the first King of the Mountains, first categorized climb of this year's Giro d'Italia, and then we're going to get the chase down, and ultimately we're going to be ending in a sprint finish. Frapporti for Androni Zajdamek, Ovzian for CC Sprandi Polkovici, Bellato for Vini Fantini, Zupa, and he is for Southeast, and Lindemann, Bert-Jan for Lotto Jumbo are up the road. It's a gap of 5 minutes and 15. No great urgency from those chasing on, except for minor points in the intermediate sprints, assembling, of course, for that coveted jersey by the end of this race. The red jersey is for those so engaged. It's going to be about the sprinters today, we know that, but also for those who can take a bit of an incline. So not
a pure sprinter's day, but one for those with some strength. They will get previews of it. We've got 2 laps, so 3 crossing of the finish line at the end of the day. And then we will have our stage winner. And with a 10-second bonus up for grabs, it's good to assemble. Although after the team time trial on stage 1, there are some decent gaps, healthy. And we expect that it's going to still be with Orica Green Edge, the leader's jersey at the end of the day. Will it be Michael Matthews who pulls it on? We'll wait and see. Here's your breakaway. They're doing a decent job of tapping into the coastline as we sail along the Ligurian coast. It does rise and fall, as you can see, and it's one of these little descents that they're on right now. A chance for them to regather themselves before we take on our climb, Dan. It's nothing too significant.
No, it does go at 200 metres, so it's not especially insignificant either, but certainly not going to test anyone too much, I wouldn't imagine. I think they'll just set a solid tempo in the group behind. There won't be any attacks coming as it does so far from the 50 k's to go, as you can see, once we get to the top of this climb, which peaks, I did have a look at it earlier, I think it's about 55 to go that they get to the top. I should just double check that now.
We're sort of reminding ourselves how to do this job, aren't we, at the moment?
53 k's to go. There's a focus from our camera on the cameras used by the Peloton at the moment. I don't know actually what manufacturer it is. That's,
I believe it's a Rico.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a few.
Thought he was banned.
Oh, Rico. Yeah, he's I don't know. I mean, he did. Well, he did everything, didn't he? That's the trouble. 4 minutes and 51 seconds to now. Just passing an Otto Grill. We've revisited those establishments on occasion. It's never really with joy in your heart, but surprisingly, one probably better than the sort of fare you're likely to pick up at a motorway service station in the United Kingdom, which usually tends to be crisp and chocolate based. There you go. Not often together, except of course if it's Dan. Strange snacks, Dan. As we just consider some of our favourites today, they'll flash up on your screen. We'll have a few more for you in a little while longer. Favourite snacks along the way? Did you have anything weird that you liked?
Well, as an amateur, when I was on a very tight budget,
weird moment coming.
Yeah. I didn't really want to spend more than about €5 when we stopped at a service station on the way back from amateur races. So I'd used to spend €2 on like a 2-litre bottle.
So 57.9 kilometers left to go. As you can see, that gap between the Maglia Rosa group and the leaders is closing rather fast. We'll take another break. We'll be back with more. You're watching the Giro d'Italia on Bein Sports. Welcome back. Just over 57 kilometers remaining in today's second stage of the Giro d'Italia. As you can see, the riders making their way up the only categorized climb of the day. It is a Category 4 climb up the Prato Zanino. Whoever gets across the line at the top of this mountain will end up in the blue jersey at day's end. So without further ado, let's send it back down to the race. Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd have your call.
Guys, it's going to be King of the Mountains jersey wear at the end of the day, and that's worth racing for.
Yeah, definitely. They'll be quite cagey going up here, I think, because they all want to take that jersey. They all know that so long as they go over the top of this climbing first and make sure that they finish the stage without any problems anywhere in the bunks, that they will be on the podium receiving that jersey at the end. So Björn Land Lindemann is my... I did that completely wrong, but Jan Lindemann is my favourite.
I'm going to go for Obzian. Yeah, mainly because
it's obvious.
yeah, that's the one. So the man in orange versus the man in yellow, as far as we're concerned, will be completely out of it. When does this peak come?
There we are. 53 k's to go, it says, but do you know, I can't imagine it's that long. It's
oh no. Well, he wasn't one of our picks. That was a big trick. Watch this. He's going to be straight in, but they're picking up pace right now. It's the King of the Mountains jersey that's up for grabs. That little error means that there's 4 in the offing, and Obzian in the orange. Looks like he's been beaten, and Vini Fantini, Nippo Vini Fantini have just escaped for this. Bellado is going for it. Can they reach back and grab this? Just a kilometre, are they, to the peak?
It's still a ways from the top.
Yeah, too far, I think,
the graphic is wrong or
taking this. Yeah, I think he's kicked off just a little bit too much. Right now, it's Obzian that's on his case. Can he make it? It does flatten out clearly towards the end, and Obzian makes it back over. Lindemann is also there. it's a jersey up for grabs, for goodness sake. Are they crazy on a climb like this? Yeah, well, I think, unfortunately for Bellato, he's made a mistake here, and Obzian has picked it up. But is he guiding Lindemann towards that jersey? They are getting cagey, but it's only 3 of them in it, Dan.
Yeah, it's a reasonably tough climb. I'm struggling to see exactly where the top is, just because either the graphic is wrong or what we've got written down in our Giro Bibles is wrong, because it says 53 Ks is the top on here. It's 4.2K climb, and they're at 56.5, you can see on your screens right now. So they could have some way to go, but a minute ago saying they had 1 kilometre left until the top, but he certainly did attack early, and now we've got these 3 just fighting it out for the KOM points.
Well, I guess he shelled a few out. They're in the hoarded section, which is always put up just in case there's a whole raft of fans that turn out in order to make their voices heard. They'll just take a little shimmy around this corner. It's clearly still not been delivered just yet. A big pickup, and it's Obzian that's going for this. And Obzian really is driving into it. Must be just round the corner right now. And Lindemann comes up and over the top. And is he going to take it? Lindemann is going to break not only Obzian's heart, but mine as well. It's Lindemann who gets Dan Lloyd a free drink at the end of the day, and takes this, the first King of the Mountains jersey. Was on offer. Only climbed today, so it had added importance. It carries a jersey with it, and it will be worn with pride by Bert-Jan Lindemann. Job done for him and
yeah,
Lotto Jumbo.
Certainly is, and he'll now be looking to get in tomorrow's breakaway to try and pick up a few more points, because there are 2 categorised climbs on tomorrow's route, and they carry more points, being as they are 3rd category and latter 2nd category before they descend down towards the finish. But he'll be happy to at least for one day. As I said, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him going up the road in the breakaway again tomorrow.
Nicely delivered. Bert-Jan Lindemann, the 25-year-old Dutchman. Enough time to check over his shoulder with 25 minutes to go, knowing that this one belonged to him. Shoulders dropped for Lukas Obzian. Well, at least we got the 1-2 between us.
Yeah, we did well there.
Yeah, I think
maybe we should stop predicting now.
Yeah. Let's keep it 100%, shall we? 56.1 kilometres to go. Quick while you're ahead, boys. It's our motto, isn't it?
Oh, he was pleased with that. I'll give it a little bit of a sort of sly punch.
Really?
To the air.
Oh, right, OK. Not meeting it out, thank goodness. So 3 minutes 59, just about a 4-minute gap. Nice to see Betancourt looking solid, I've got to say.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't look bad yesterday in that team time, John, did he? He certainly didn't drop off the pace from his teammates, and I think his manager, Vincent Lavenue, said that they will keep him a protected rider in the GC until he comes out of the GC, which I don't know when that will be. He could fly, he could get drops on the climbs tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, yeah, it'll be a big day, to be honest, of reckoning, I think. As soon as we get to those climbs, we're going to see a lot of form displayed, aren't we?
Yeah, tomorrow's an interesting one. I was starting to talk about it a little bit earlier on. I know Orica Greenedge have done a recce of the final 100 Ks or so, and it does look tough in the book, but apparently it's even tougher when you actually ride it, because the roads are very narrow. There's almost no flats for a bit of it, so we could see some surprises tomorrow. To see if Orica choose to try and control things, and if they are capable of doing that, because they haven't got that many climbers in the team. Could well be a stage for Simon Gerrans, but we have got that long run in after the peak that comes at 92.5 Ks. It's then around about 44 Ks to get to the finish, but that previous 60 do sound particularly tough.
It's possibly a scattergun approach that you're going to have to take if you want to pick today's winner, however. We're talking about form. It's hard to judge, especially when you've got a quick day with a nasty kick up the backside at the end. They're just, as you can see, 500 metres away from our finish line, and possibly one of the poorest Giro d'Italia signs that we've seen so far. If we're going to have a competition, it's often easy to pick the best, but not so easy to pick the worst. So I think we need to turn our minds to that.
Yeah.
Stage 1, somebody's done it with some flour. There we are. It's probably that ground chickpea wheat for the flatbread that we didn't have yesterday, so we can't tell you what it's like. Oh, somebody else has been out with the with the corrector paint. There we are. Read into it what you will. 54.6 kilometres to go. What about today then, Dan? Are you going to nail your flag to the mast? I know that as far as the bookmakers are concerned, they're probably going to make some money out of you today, because you've been spending money left, right and centre.
Yeah, like a bit of an outsider. Meersman I went for. I think Lobato I went for as well. Matthews because it was harder than it looked. And so we wait and see how they all get on.
Yeah, why not?
Greipel was the out-and-out favourite this morning, both with anyone in the know and also with the bookies as well. I think he's still pretty short now, around about 3 is about the highest you can get on him. But I think it's quite open. I think Viviani looks pretty good, and Nizzolo's obviously up for the point, so he'll want to be collecting as many towards the end. It could favour someone just slightly lighter maybe than Greipel. As I said at the start of the programme, if you're only just joining us, Cedric Vasseur, former yellow jersey wearer at the Tour de France, many years ago, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, said that it was way too hard for Greipel, but he doesn't think he's even got a chance. And in fact, he said he's going to pay champagne for myself and his co-commentator if he does win today. So if I don't win from my bets, I'm hoping Greipel wins, so I get some free champagne later, along with my free drink from Lindemann winning the KOM points there.
Gosh, you're building it up, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just wait. It's going to be one of the Bardiani boys that brings me deep joy, but we'll see later on. 53.3 kilometres to go. As you can see, the disco has just rolled into town. They've got an amazing Mack long-nose truck, which they paint up, polish up and chrome up, especially for this event. They have, thankfully, stopped away from our commentary position. Usually they just blast us to bits, but I think the sound engineers are quite upset about having to attenuate for that on occasion.
I think they just haven't quite got up to us yet, but we should wait and see.
They're coming.
Looking in the peloton, there's a few people starting to have some difficulties. Is that Nizzolo himself, by the looks of things, just on the back of that Trek train there, maybe just paying for the efforts of those 2 intermediate sprints? Either that or he's had a little bit of a problem. On the front is the Tinkoff Saxo team, and we can expect to see that quite a lot. They're not teeing it up for anybody in the team to do anything. They're not teeing it up for an attack. Not teeing it up for a big bunch sprint. They're simply keeping Alberto Contador out of trouble. He very much likes to stay towards the front. And if they do increase the pace, it makes it easier for him to stay there at the front, and that's exactly what they're doing now. Teeing it up for the descent, basically, so that he can have a clear view, and he's got less chance of crashing and ruining his first goal of the year.
Take on those fluids today. It's a sort of a day that can catch you out. It gets very, very warm, and it feels cool when you get into the tree-covered areas, as you can see. The party's still rocking on here at the finish line. I'm hoping that it's going to end fairly soon. They need to sort out their speakers down and maybe point them the other way. There we are. Somebody's got the paper plates out. They've bought a stack of pink paper plates. Not quite as bad as the flower that we saw early on. We're going for the worst acknowledgement of the Giro. The best ones we obviously clearly appreciate. We appreciate the bad ones as well. Somebody's got to make the effort. Worst sign you've ever seen, Dan? Actually, you probably couldn't even describe it because it's so bad. 52 kilometres to go then. And into town they come. It's a glorious little feel that you get when the Tour, the Giro d'Italia, actually comes into town. Hove's interview. It's all gone by so quickly, but they're then back in the cafes and indeed the living rooms to watch the remainder of the race. It really does grip Italy, doesn't it, the Giro d'Italia? It's marvellous.
Yeah, it's very much embraced, and of course all of the towns who find out that the race is passing through them do tend to put quite a lot of effort in, and we see a lot of pink, especially the stage starts and finishes. And the fountains this year, I've never noticed that before. You seem to have a lot of pink water in comparison to previous years. But they very much do embrace it. Tifosi, as they're called, the fans of cycling out here. It is, of course, like many other European nations, predominantly a soccer-following nation, but cycling is very close to their heart as well. They've produced a lot of champions in the past. This, the group of Nizzolo, he has been distanced. We saw a graphic a few moments ago which suggested that he was somewhere in the region of around about 50 seconds behind the pink jersey group, which is a fairly substantial amount. We've also got Pelucchi, I believe, around here somewhere as well, who's the sprinter from IM Cycling, the Swiss squad, who did so well in the team time trial, which opened the race yesterday. So a few sprinters are starting to get into trouble over this 200-metre elevation climb through the fact that Tinkoff Saxo have started to increase the pace somewhat. Boaro is the rider, the Italian rider, on the front for them in the bright yellow there. Ivan Basso on his wheel, Alberto Contador just behind that, and they'll stay in that formation, I would imagine, all the way down the descent, just to keep Contador, as I said, out of trouble.
Just over 50 kilometres to go. Tinkoff Saxo putting the hurt on the only climb of the day that is categorised. We've got our king of the mountain. It is Lindemann who's in the break. You see there in the bright yellow of Lotto Jumbo. However, some of the sprinters that may have had an option for the end of today just showing that they don't have the climbers' legs. Ditolo.
Okay, so we're going to send it to break. The riders have just made it over the only categorized climb of the day. Giacomo Nizzolo has actually been dropped. We'll have more on that when we return. You're watching Bein Sports. Back here, about 50 kilometers left to go, and we have some trouble there on the road. See if we can get that cleared up in just a moment. We'll get some details from Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd, but just under 50 kilometers left to go. As you can see, the Maglia Rosa group starting to close the gap on the 5 men out in front. Let's send it back now to your commentary crew. It's stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia.
Goodness. Well, the big Mack truck is just moving inexorably closer to us, and it may well be that it drowns us out. Security will probably be sent down by Dan Lloyd. They tend to listen to him, especially when he puts on the glare. I experienced that on occasion. Yeah, it's coming. 48.1. That's the glare and the truck. Here it comes. They can't really resist you hitting the air horn. You feel like you should be on a countdown.
About time to reference a disco now, isn't it?
Well, I was going to if I could hear myself think above Carno, whoever it is. Anyway, they have moved them on. The mobile Mack truck with the wheels of steel and Michele, who's on board, giving a big smile. Thankfully getting further away, along with Boloco, the biscuits. You tried one of those? Have you nibbled on a Boloco?
Yeah, quite dry.
It's legal. 47.7 kilometers to go, 3 minutes and 28. And there's Bein, and the good news is he's back on the bike.
Yeah, he seems to be continuing, of course, on his bike, and he'll do everything that he can to get through to the end of his stage today. There is a mobile x-ray machine at the end of these big races like the Giro d'Italia, and so I'm sure he'll be escorted there at the finish to make sure that he hasn't got any broken bones. The fact that he's riding tends to suggest that things aren't too bad, but we have seen riders go on in the past with fractured collarbones, fractured scaphoids, and later have to pull out the race that evening and not start the next morning. So let's hope that's not the case for him.
Yeah, certainly. 47.4 kilometres to go, 3 minutes and 30 then. We've got a bit of a hiatus now, Dan. Let's talk then about our final loop through town. It's sort of highway, probably a bit more wide open roads than we've even seen so far today. You probably won't see the best of Genoa. I'm sure the cameras will be honing in on some of the beautiful parts. But the finish line itself is into a really, really impressive part of town.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to Genova before.
You're coming back, aren't you?
It's very impressive as a place, much bigger than I expected it to be, actually. The port's amazing, the building and architecture also. Yeah, very impressive place. If you're in the vicinity, I thoroughly recommend coming to see it. We'll only see a very small fraction of it today, as we drove in this morning, but yeah, it's a really nice area.
The publicity caravan will be past us before you know it, thank goodness, so they're busy handing out their freebies. It's amazing what a grown man will do for an inflatable sausage.
I've seen the way you've gone for the man.
People fight for this stuff, well, usually with smiles on their face, although I have once seen two grannies pulling apart a packet of biscuits. It wasn't a pleasant sight, especially when they went down to try and find them as they rolled away on the ground. You do get various kinds of battles. We'll have a different kind engaged later on today. That high-speed chat going on right now with Ovzian. He takes a bottle. That looked moderately dangerous to me, frankly, but you know, I'm just immortal, not immortal. 40.6 kilometres then, they come through the light and shade as the sun at this time of year, it doesn't quite have the frequency of the power indeed of the deep summer, and some of those who did suffer on that climb are getting themselves back in right now. Dan, that sort of put a magnifying glass really on some of those guys who might suffer later when we come to the ramp in the sprint.
Well, one of the ones who was caught out was Peluki, number 86 there, who we just saw regaining contact with the peloton. He's not known as a climber by any means. In fact, he often slips back through. He requires a very flat stage to do well. Luckily for him, it is pretty flat now from here to the finish, so he should be okay. As I said, it seems as though he is the designated sprinter rather than Heinrich Hausler for stages like today. He started off the season fantastically well in the Mallorca Challenge at the start of the year, a series of kind of one-day races back-to-back. He took two stages, 2 races there ahead of the likes of Viviani. So he was flying at the start of the season, crashed in Tirreno, would dearly love, along with the likes of Modolo and Nizzolo, to take a sprint win on home soil. But they're coming up against some fierce competition, and he just doesn't seem to be quite in the form that he has been. In fact, looking on my other monitor, he's struggling once again to keep up with the peloton.
Alenzano with the Habsburg yellow. And Gianni, is he going to get the wink at the camera? We're longing for it almost. There we are. They keep snatching his thunder.
Bart de Backer there, the number 163, very consistent in Paris-Roubaix over the last couple of years, and a very strong rider who we saw do very, very well in Tour Yorkshire in the breakaway a couple of weeks ago. Looks like he's in some sort of difficulty, either that or he's going back for a mechanical problem or to fetch some bottles. They can continue to feed and get bottles from team cars until 20 k's to go. Sometimes UCI commissaires allow them to go to 15 or 10 k's to go if it's particularly hot, which it does get here at the Giro d'Italia.
Arenzano, lovely little place. Mark Cavendish won into town in 2009. It's one of those sort of smaller places where the local burgers, I'm not talking about the edible kind, the great and the good of the local council, sort of put on a bit of a display. The local wares are made as an offering to the journalists to be nice to them, but we're nice to everybody in this game. Apart from Barolo, what a miserable bunch of so-and-sos they were up there. They've got the wine, they've got an elevated status as well, they think an awful lot of themselves, and they're extraordinarily dismissive to absolutely everybody. Yeah, so it's like they didn't want us there. Manabu Ishibashi, he's at it again, Dan.
Ishibashi, yeah, amazing name that.
I don't know what it means. Any guesses?
I don't know if it means anything, is it? It's just a Japanese name.
Of course it means something.
Oh,
amazing. Look at this, amazing. We've just had the espressos delivered. This is more than welcome. And our friend here, Elbert Solari, is an absolute genius. There he is. We love him. We love him. He gave us grapes earlier on and a cake, and now coffee. What next? I think massage. Yeah, feet. That'll do. 43.8, 3 minutes and 8 seconds is the gap. 43.8 kilometres to go. And there's the man who's going to be wearing the King of the Mountains jersey. A happy boy.
Yeah, he'll be on the podium later on today. If you stick around with our programme, no doubt you'll see him up there spraying champagne and celebrating. Just discussing things with his sports director now. I don't think there's too many tactical decisions to make from this point onwards for the breakaway. It's basically a case of going as fast as you can and hoping that they muck up the chase in the peloton behind. But it's very likely that's going to happen. 3 minutes, as you can see, 40 k's to go. The peloton have this very much under control. Giant Alpecin are the team that seem to be doing the work on the front right now, with the Dutchman Tom Stamschneider there, the big rider from Giant Alpecin controlling the peloton. Disappeared though have been the Orica Green Edge team. They don't have too much to be concerned about today. They are working for Michael Matthews when it comes to the sprint, and I'm sure we'll see them again a little bit later on, but they're just taking a little bit of a back seat and getting themselves back together again after that KOM climb.
3 minutes and 8 seconds is the gap to the break from the pink jersey group. They're amassed, well, quite literally, as Ule just goes back to, somebody's let go of their pink balloons. Bless them. There'll be a crying child in a garden near here, believe me. 3 minutes and 11. Got to cut the kids myself. It's a forlorn sight. A balloon heading away as tears do fall. 45 kilometres to go then, and as you can see, very much holiday time here. It takes the Italians a long time to go beachy, even when those of Northern European location or habitation generally tend to go a bit early in terms of getting out the buff skin. Yeah, it's not a great sight, to be honest, in the likes of Northern England. But where I hail from, by the way, so I'm allowed. 42 to say. 42.2 kilometres to go, 3 minutes and 11. And they're tapping this out, but the mood's going to change. And they'll all want a decent preview of the finish today, because I think to many it might well be a mystery. We had our interviews at the top of the day, and it seemed that they didn't really appreciate what's going to hit them. And it is a little bit of a wall, albeit only for the pacemen.
Well, it's not a wall. It's a drag. Let's say that it does drag for 600 metres to the line. It's a fence, yeah. So just a little bit harder than the road book suggested. Let's say that it's not going to, I don't think, put too many people into too many difficulties. I think it just sways the favourites very slightly from the likes of Greipel towards the likes of Matthews, Lobato, just marginally. It's going to be a very, very interesting finish, actually. And incidentally, I've been told what Ishibashi means.
Go on then.
Rock bridge.
There you go.
Probably someone lying to me to get me to sound stupid on air, but I think that's probably is what it means.
No, that's from the Rockbridge Cafe down in East Grinstead. And you've done it. There we are. Double espressos all round, I think. 41.4 kilometres remaining then, and just over the mark. Time to, I guess, take stock. It's early in the Giro d'Italia. This is the first day of road racing proper. It's inevitably going to end in a sprint, but I think it's going to be lively. When will we be on the circuit for the first time, Dan?
Well, they crossed the line with 19 Ks to go, and they'll reach the circuit a little bit before that and do the final part towards the finish line. And it's the third time across the finish line, which will be the finish for them. 2 lots of 9.5 Ks. Nothing too much for them to worry about. The only thing that I was looking at it as we rode round it this morning was there's quite a long section on the run into the finish which has it's elevated road and it has barriers either side, which can make things tricky when you're trying to line up your sprinter and everybody's trying to do the same thing, stay towards the front. You know, a slight twitch of wheels normally means that you end up in a hedge or a ditch on the side, which doesn't hurt anywhere near as much as going into a metal barrier. So I'm just hoping everyone stays safe at that point. A few twists and turns, but in general it's a good road, very smooth, nothing too much to worry about. That is one of those Bein rucksacks.
The multi-Bein, they sort of came and then went, and now, well, they're obviously back again. Yeah, they look a bit swingy to me.
Yeah,
that was a bad take, wasn't it?
This one doesn't look very easy.
No, I think he was supposed to.
One armhole.
He was supposed to. He's gone both armholes at the same time. It was a bad handover.
Yeah.
Whoever makes them.
Practice on that.
I don't know. Do you think?
Sportful have got some good ones that Tinkoff Saxo use, and we saw them last year.
There you go.
I've heard a few pros claim that this was their idea. Rob Hale was amongst them, and so I think Dave Zabriskie told me it was his idea as well. So we'll let them fight that out between them. But anyway, neither of them went and patented it.
Yeah.
Oh my word!
And then somebody was
starting to look dangerous.
It's not a good ad, is it? I don't know.
Can't I just put them in my pockets next time, like we used to do?
How much time is he losing with this? Come on. Oh, he's got there. There we go. And I guess the deal is now it was worth the effort because the guys can just take them instead of having to be handed them.
He's only got 6 on there, though. Teammates.
I don't know. He's going to have to come back. There we are. I think an invention that needs polishing. 39.8 kilometres to go then, 2.5 minutes. A little bit of a relaxed day, I guess, possibly for us and maybe for you at home. If you are looking in and would feel like sparing us your thoughts, then please feel free to do so. It's at Carlton Kirby or at Daniel Lloyd 1. Don't forget the 1 on the end, or indeed the double L in Lloyd, D-A-N-I-E-L, double L-O-Y-D, and then the number 1. How many L's have you actually got in your name? Remind me.
9.
Daniel Llewellyn, William Lloyd.
Well, William Llewellyn.
Oh, so it was only the order I got wrong.
Yeah.
I got the L's in. The impressive Costa Concordia cruise ship, the largest ship ever wrecked. Is that bragging rights? Was docked in the city's large commercial harbour in 1914 before it tipped over. Oh no, it was waiting to be it tipped over in 2012, didn't it? I remember it being pointed out to us with embarrassment by our friends at Rye. The captain finally did go to prison, but it took an awful long time. What happened was he sailed over. It was tragic circumstances, I might add. It was a number of people died in the incident. He sailed too close to the coastline to basically say hello to relatives grounded the ship, which...
Down under 40 kilometers to go. Felipe Gilbert on your screen right there. The Maglia Rosa group now 2 minutes and 20 seconds behind the 5-man leadouts. And take a quick break. We'll be back with more. You're watching the Giro d'Italia on Bein Sports. You're looking at the front of the race here. We're in stage 2 of the 2015 Giro d'Italia, the 98th running of the race. Still a 5-man lead-out group. They've been out there well over 100 kilometers. As you can see, the names appearing on your screen. It's been these same 5 guys pushing the pace at the front. The peloton now just over 2 minutes behind them. Let's send it back down to race level. More from stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia.
It appears to be more as though it's 3 or 4%, which could make a slight difference to who will be favourite towards the end of today. They'll all get to see it twice before they do it one final time up towards the finish. And we could see a few changes in tactics and the way that they go about things over those last laps because of what they see coming out towards the finish line. I mentioned Gianni Meersman already. I think that he would have not even been in with a shout if it was a purely flat finish, but given the way it is, I think that he will get the help of Tom Bonen and his teammates and could well, get in towards the top 5 today.
Jesse Vikinen, the Finnish champion, always easy to spot with that national flag resplendent upon his back. I do like that actually as a national jersey. It's proper, there's no doubt. Incidentally, the English flag, not the British flag, but the English flag, which is a bit like the Finnish flag, but just the red version as opposed to the blue, is also the flag of Genoa, incidentally. And they also have the same patron saint of the city, St. George, who was the slayer of the dragon. There you go. 2 minutes and 13 is the gap then to this breakaway. Let's talk about this approach then. With the ramp, the kick-up comes with about 650 metres to go. There's that boat that's being dismantled, the one that tipped over, the Costa Concordia. Looks rather solidly held at the moment. It'll be razor blades before you know it. 1,000 metres from home. It's kilometres there. We've got a nasty right-hander at about 950 metres from the line. And then it's arrow straight, save for that kick-up. The Costa Concordia, a sad tale indeed, and a sad end to what was a glorious vessel, and presumably a promising career for the captain, who is now incarcerated. Taken the ship over too close to the coastline to wave with his family. Over it went, and he was first man off, I understand, leaving the passengers to struggle. This struggle at an end right now. You might think, well, I think it's pacing duties at the front, essentially. Seemed to be a bit of mirth crossing between them as we sail by the Costa Concordia. One of those expensive yachts is on display right now. It's probably for sale. Incidentally, Joan Collins described the day that she sold her luxury yacht as the happiest day of her life. There they are. It's tough to dispatch. Thank goodness we've drifted away from that vessel. 35.3 kilometres to go, 2 minutes and 1. It's all over, Dan. It's going to be about the sprint trains and a rapid approach. They all want a good look. Everyone wants to be in a decent position, and they see it for the first time.
Yeah, not just the sprinters, but of course these are the most nervous stages really for the general classification riders and teams as well. So primarily thinking of course of Ethics with Uran, Astana with Fabio Aru, and then we've also got the big favourites, Richie Porte of Team Sky and Alberto Contador of Tinkoff Saxo. They will all be trying to keep their leaders up towards the front, making sure that they don't get into any trouble, they don't get caught behind any crashes, and they don't lose any stupid time on this final drag up towards the finish line. And it might well be that actually they have to stay very much towards the front, because the fact that it's a drag could mean that we see some very small gaps opening up. You've just joined the sport of cycling and you're new to watching all of this, you don't know all the rules and regulations. As the bunch crosses the finish line in a bunch, everybody is given the same time, so the clock is stopped when the first person from that group or bunch crosses the line. And everyone else is given the same time until you get a gap that's over 1 second. So what can happen is that coming across the line, maybe between 25th and 26th place, you've got a 1 second gap. And that means that if you're in 27th place, you can have a 10-12 second disadvantage or deficit to the first person who crossed the line. So despite the fact you're only 1 second behind the person in front of you, you can actually lose a handful of seconds, which is the last thing that you want as a GC rider, especially as Richie Port right now, who's already lost 20 seconds to his key rival on the very opening team time trial stage. So it will be very nervous, not just for the sprinters, but also, as I said, for the GC riders as well.
Yeah, 27 seconds. Port down, but 20 seconds on his key rival, of course, which is Alberto Contador. Yeah, doing a great job, Orica Green Edge yesterday, and this breakaway have also done a decent job as well. First time on across the finish line will be at 19 kilometres to go, but we're on the approach into town. You've also already seen the Genovese flag along the way. Just under the 2-minute marker right now, and BMC. Could it be could it be a day for a lively puncher like Philippe Gilbert? Well, he's been carrying an injury really, and he's not been at his fullest. But you know, former world champion, never to be discounted. He'll possibly roll the dice early on. Somebody else who might as well, somebody like Sylvain Chavanel. Although I think they'll be looking after Palucci today. With Roger Kluger and Heinrich Hausler leading out for I Am Cycling. Bit of a mystery are CCC's Brandi Polkovici. They'll probably be up there early on in the approach, but I expect their challenge to fade a little bit later. You just watch now, somebody from in the Tangerines will come to the fore late on. We're just coming into Genova then for the first time of asking. In fact, we stay here and revolve around the city. Sounded strange, but yeah, it's a great maritime history attached to this place. Christopher Columbus, home of, even the Spanish claiming for themselves, and likewise the Portuguese, even though they've got Galileo and the likes as well to play with. Yeah, Christopher Columbus honoured here, and you'll see some phenomenal vessels as well along the way. It's a beautiful, beautiful place with some great history. The old port and aquarium. Incidentally, it's suspended as a counterbalance to this great boat lifter. On the other arm of it, you can take a little ride up into the sky and see some of these sculptural windmills as well. There you are. That's the thing you can go up in. Alternatively, if you don't want to pay to go up, it's €4. You can go to the building opposite. Just go up in the lift and get it for free. There we are. Plenty of old port as well to deal with. Shame we're not seeing the Maritime Museum. And there's the pirate ship. Gosh, flash photography. What? That pirate ship deserves a programme all on its own.
I've never seen him so disappointed.
Oh, Neptune. What happened to Neptune? Goodness sake, he's on the front of that boat. I need to see that again. I'm going to have to put up some pictures myself. Clearly, our postcard man didn't like Neptune. Maybe he's a Poseidon fan. It's a Greek-Roman thing. 31.9 kilometres, a little bit less than that. 2 minutes is the gap, just a little bit more. There's been a little extension in the breakaway gap because as they come into town, the teams want to be together. They're talking strategy, and I'm not surprised.
No, they're starting to build up. We're getting more and more teams on the front sharing the workload to try and bring this breakaway back in before the final sprint finish. I can see Orica Green Edge are also starting to collect themselves as a team and go towards the front, even if they're not actually doing any work right now. That work seems to be predominantly being done by Giant Alpecin. Actually, Orica Green Edge are out there as well, and Trek Factory Racing. We haven't seen too many from Lotto. We've had one guy, Sander Arme, who's been working on the front. So there's around about 4 teams now sharing the workload. There is Andre Greipel, resplendent in the German champions kit in the whites, just off the screen on the right-hand side there right now. Favourite for today amongst many people. Be very interesting to see if he can take a stage win here. He took his first ever Grand Tour victory at the Giro d'Italia back in 2008, and he has won another stage since then as well. He'll be looking to add to that today. And as you said, Carlton, he has got a very good lead-out in here as well, not least Greg Henderson, who has been by his side for many, many years as his last man in the bunch sprints.
Gianni Meersman, well, either he or Tom Bonen for Ethics Quick-Step. Oscar Gatto, will he turn the clock back, or is he working for David Apollino today for Androni Giacottoli? It's going to get busy out there because Raffoni and Bardiani in the lime green, they're in a bit of a mess at the moment. They're all away from each other. The clever teams are already assembling themselves in colour order and having a bit of a chat on the approach. So maybe they'll go freestyling with Colbrelli and Battaglin also in the offering for them. BMC, well, Gilbert may well go long, we'll see. Gregor Bolla maybe for Sprandi Polkovic. He is a quick man, the Slovenian. Talking to him earlier on before this race began, he said he is looking for stages out there. So it could be that somebody in Tangerine pops up, and if they do so, it's likely to be Gregor himself. The aforementioned Heinrich Hauser, Roger Kluger working for Paluk Cycling. Sasha Madola, big chance today. Although Roberto Ferrari is not averse to picking up this kind of thing himself. Got the beating of Mark Cavendish on a stage in 2012. Promptly disappeared from the Giro. He's now on lead-out duties. Yes, bad blood between Mark Cavendish.
Well, the riders making their way into Genova as we reach the final stretch of this race. Down to 30 kilometers remaining. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back with the conclusion here on Bein Sports. Still the same 5 men out in front. They've been out there for just about the majority of our time on TV. 28 kilometers left to go in stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia as we are in Genova right now. The riders getting themselves organized, looking to make the final push as the Maglia Rosa group closing to within 2 minutes now of that 5-man lead out. We send it back now to Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd for more from stage 2.
Very much so. Genoa sort of had a reputation for carrying a knife in your teeth when you went to some of the bars, especially portside. Last night we went down to the restaurants and it was a joy to be there. It felt very cosmopolitan, I must admit. Here we are then. It's time to get serious and just look at the riders' faces. No more chit-chat, no more interchange between teams. This is the business end of the day. It's going to get very busy. We're just a minute and 56 then as we make these approaches. And as Dan Lloyd was pointing out earlier on today, you don't want to get it wrong. It can lull you into a false sense of security when you've got this much road to play with. There are some focused turns though, and that means that there is a narrowing of the best route through, and you can see there are some bruises that have been carried deep into this race. That's the back end of Chinetsky, who found himself on the deck earlier on today. So he's got scuffs and bruises. Let's hope that everyone stays clean as we get to the last few curves, and indeed the 90 degree, which comes at 950 meters to go. This is the old, this is a seminary, incidentally, which is a monastic hospital. I'm not sure what sort of brews they actually cooked up in this part of the world, but apparently it's sort of a grappa-based thing. We'll let you know tomorrow if we dare taste it. We may well just, it could be used just for, I think, removing paint. Although we could be doing it down unnecessarily. 27 kilometers to go, just a minute and 54 seconds now. The breakaway's done for. These guys are just ejecting the bidons, as you can see. They're close enough to home and don't think that they're going to strike up a thirst later on. A little bit of discussion going on. A lot of riders from different teams actually know each other. They're extraordinarily familiar with each other. It's not catch-up at the moment, but just kind of displaying their own thoughts on the approach to today. Here's the old dockyard, the maritime school as well, where Christopher Columbus and indeed others later on went out and did their thing, surveying the world as it was and mapping it out for our delight. Cycling a truly global sport. When you look through those who have come along, and all the way from Australia, of course, we have Simon Gerrans, and he wears the pink jersey. It's a great nation with a fantastic history within cycling that they really are adding multiple chapters to over the last couple of years. And Orica Greenedge have done a fantastic job of doing exactly that. Michael Matthews has just moved up towards the fore. There's Rigoberto Urán, who just want to stay safe. With the white jersey on the back of Michael Matthews, just ahead of this Ethics Quick-Step train that's starting to sort itself out. I think Urán's going to be brave today, and I think he's going to be part of the run-in for Tom Bonen and Gianni Meersman in particular. Ethics Quick-Step, they're used to sprint success, and even though it's not their main focus, you know, if it's offered to them, Dan, they'll take it.
Yeah, they certainly will. Mearsman will be looking to take a stage win, at least one along the 3 weeks that we've got here at the Giro d'Italia. And yeah, today, as I said, suits him far more than I'd imagine he or the rest of the team thought it would do the roadbook last night and this morning. So as I said, I think they're going to look at this finish that they're going to see very shortly. They'll be passing over the finish line with 19 kilometres to go, and it could be a bit of a reshuffling in terms of tactics for some of the teams here today. Some teams haven't got any options in terms of changing tactics. Quick-Step, Essex Quick-Step are one of those who do. Lotto Belisol, on the other hand, will very much stick to Andre Greipel. I still think he can win today, despite what some of the other experts in this commentary position have said. Cedric Grasser, I shall name him. It's going to be very, very interesting. I can't wait. I can't wait for the final couple of laps here.
People might have thought it was me. I like Andre. Met him at the Tour of Turkey again, and he said, the man who screams a lot. Yeah, when I'm commentating. Yeah, well, you know, with yeah, he spends a lot of time in Bangladesh. 25.1 kilometres to go. Minute 25. It's all done. They've had enough of this breakaway, frankly. It's not that that's their focus. It's just that they want a decent view of what they've got to deal with, and they're going to get it really shortly, Dan.
Yeah, 6 kilometres until they reach the finish line for the first time. So they're pretty much on the circuit right now, going past the docklands here and all those huge vessels which we saw last night as we came in here this morning. There's the front of the race still. You saw them flash up on your screens a few moments ago. They went within 1 kilometre of the neutral flag going down today after kilometre 0. They are Frapporti of Androni, Nippo Vini Fantini's Bellato. We've also got CCC's Ovsian, South East Cycling's Zupa, and Lindemann of the Team Lotto NL Jumbo in the yellow there. Go past your screen on the top right. In fact, it's in full vision now. He is the king of the mountains of this year's Giro d'Italia as we speak. There was only one climb en route, and he was first over the top of it, so he'll be on the podium at the end of today. And we're fully expecting those 5 riders in the top right of your screens there to be brought back by the sprinters teams. 4 teams currently working on the front. We've got Giant Alpecin, we've got Orica Greenedge, we've got Trek Factory Racing, and even Tinkoff Saxo have lent their hand at point, primarily when the route went upwards.
Just under 24 kilometres to go. Ooh. And we've got this. Oh, we said brain fade, and you can get yourselves into all kinds of bother, and that's exactly what we've got. Henrik Hausler, the Australian champion, is embedded at the side of the road. He's hobbling. We said it was dangerous here. Some narrower sections, but it can lull you into a false sense of security. And this is going to be a heavy price for some of these guys.
Well, this is exactly what I was talking about, actually, at the top of our programme. This elevated road with the barriers on either side. Once you do get up towards, you know, the latter end of the race, as it does come on these laps, it becomes very difficult because everybody's trying to move up. And if you do get a slight swaying from one side to the other, it's like Sam Bewley there, Michael Hepburn there as well. Chavanel, a lot of the IM riders, Palucci, I think, amongst them as well. Disaster for them after a great start to their Giro d'Italia campaign yesterday. Yeah, not a bit of a disaster, but there's nowhere to go. If you do get a swaying of the bunch from one side to the other, which happens constantly, it looks far smoother from the overhead shots than it actually is within. There's constant rhythm changes, there's constant swaying from one side to the other. That's exactly what's happened there. There's nowhere to go on the side of the road because you've just got metal barriers. Henrik Hausler looks to be in a little bit of a bad way. Let's have a look at it here.
Here we are then, side of the road. Little bit of movement, and you can tag. And the Australian champion finding himself on the deck, and that was a hard hit. You can see how divorced he is from his own bike. So he took a big roll, and plenty of sprint options just ended right there today, including Palucci for I Am Cycling. They're looking at themselves and just getting their heads sorted out. Even Sylvain Chavanel, who would have been expected to maybe roll the dice early, as per Philippe Gilbert, he's lost a couple of men that may well have just helped him maneuver into position as well. 22.8 kilometres to go. We said it was going to be dangerous, potentially. should there be a wheel touch, and so it has proven. Minute and 18 now, and the pace that the pack have got, they're not going to be waiting for those guys.
No, they're certainly not. I think it's race over for the guys that we saw on our screens a few minutes ago who'd only just got going again. It'll be a big task to get back towards the peloton, even if you're drafting behind the car. Atapuma also involved. Chavanel, we saw Colbrelli, you mentioned Carlton. Stortoni apparently as well was also one of those on the ground. A horrid start to the Giro for Atapuma after what we mentioned yesterday on the programme as well. So things could be going better.
Well, if there's one thing we've learned about the Giro over the years, that it can be hazardous to your health if you get caught up in the move to the front of the race. So a number of riders go down. These 5 men still out in front. We'll be right back. You're watching Bein Sports. Welcome back to stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia here on Bein Sports. We're coming up on the last 20 kilometers of today's race, as the gap between the Maglia Rosa group and the 5 leaders now down under a minute, and in fact going down even faster as we speak. There was a big crash just before we left among the riders that were in it. Chavanel, Sara Motins, Palucchi, Dall'Antonia, and Hausler, among others. And there's going to be a lot of disappointed teams out there today. Let's go ahead and send it back down to the race. 20 kilometers left to go in stage 2.
To really get a good view of exactly what this finish line looks like. It's the first chance for the riders as well to see this drag.
Here we go then, about 600. They're just kicking into the climb right now. They may well just get out of the saddle as they, not perhaps our breakaway riders, but certainly some of those further behind. It is a proper little test, this, as they head under what looks like the Bridge of Sighs. And in fact, they are out of the saddle. There you are. It tells you all you need to know. End of a busy day. They were going to take their, presumably, publicity photos as they head across the line in a few moments' time. These guys at the back of the peloton now just taking that curve at about 950 meters, and they get that view, that straight view. It is a drag, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You can see by the speed that's, well, come off the riders in the breakaway here. It's really down to kind of 30, 35 k's per hour. They're very capable, even after being out there all day, of going 45 on the flat. So that does give you an idea of just how much of a drag this is. We're reckoning 3 to 4% for 600 meters, which is not what it says on the road, but very interesting to see what the talk is. It would be very interesting to hear what the talk is amongst the riders in the bunch after they pass this for the first time and see what they've got to deal with.
So the breakaway come by and they take the applause across the finish line just next to our commentary position where these pictures are being taken from as we speak. And here comes the approach, and this is out of the saddle. You can see a lot of them as well. Interesting to see that the Garmin team, Cannondale Garmin, are also very much in colour order and to the fore. I imagine they've taken a tongue lashing overnight. They're an appalling team time trial by their old standards. Seems clock going backwards for them. 19.2 in that skill, I should say. 19.2 kilometres to go then. And there's the official gap at the line, 32 seconds, I think it was, 33 as they cross it. So that will be the finish, a much bigger test than many of the sprinters will have hoped for. I wonder whether they'll reboot their plans, Dan.
Yeah, I think there'll be some discussions amongst them, either just next to each other in the bunch or even on the race radio, both from the riders and also the sports directors who will have contact with them from the team cars behind. Tinkoff Saxo very much up there in abundance in their bright yellow livery towards the front, keeping Alberto Contador out of trouble. Very much day over for the breakaway. Job done for them, job done in particular for Lindemann in yellow there, who'll be, as I said, on the podium in the King of the Mountains jersey at the end of the day. It was always going to be this fate for them, I'm afraid. Day one of the Giro d'Italia, flat finish. So many sprinters teams, so many ambitions from the big sprinters here. They were always going to bring them back. And I don't see many attacks going from here to the finish from the peloton.
Normally, on a flat day, we'd have quite a bit of pace about us right now. You can see that AG2 Alamondial are moving into position. That's to look after Carlos Betancourt, is looking very much back, approaching his best. Sprinters, as far as AG2 Alamondial, sprint options for them today?
No, I think they've very much come to the Giro with everyone behind their team leader for the overall classification. Pozzovivo is a very good climbing team. Nocentino, Monteguzzi, Ule, Gretsch is a guy from the flatland, but not in terms of sprinting. Dupont, a climber as well from France. Demont, Betancourt, of course, we just mentioned, is a climber when he's on form. And Berard as well. So no one here for the sprints for the French World Tour outfit.
Oh, no, not again. And this is a hard hit, I've got to tell you. And Movistar are being brutal. And that's Quintana. Daya. Wow. We've had a lot of this today, and we're going to get a bit more as the pace goes up. Everything okay? Nice to see that it was very quickly addressed. But he's going to take a while to get his wind back, I'm afraid. And there we as well being quickly attended to by the paramedics. Looks like he's in one piece and he'll be back on the bike before you know it. One suspects that this isn't the end of the incidents today, especially on the final lap. The pace is just picking up. It's 38 seconds now. That said, it's not really as quick as perhaps it would be normally on a straight-out sprinter's day, but as they take these curves, they're already fighting for road position right now. I'm very wary, I'm sure, of the incidents that we've already had and not wanting to get caught up in that.
No, it's a nasty place to be, the bunch and the peloton on the first day of a Grand Tour. So many nerves and so much pent-up energy from the resting that they would have done in the 2 or 3 days leading up to the race. They're all on peak form, they're all pinging, they're all looking to do something, and that is what is the result. Too many nervous people, too many people not willing to give way, crossing of wheels or an overlapping of wheels, and you very quickly come down, as we've seen twice already, even though we've still got just under 17 kilometres to go. Good to see Quintana, there that is, of course, back up on his bike. He won't play any further part really in today's stage, but he should finish and continue along tomorrow. But we've already got a few injuries in the peloton after day 1 of the Giro.
Just over 16 kilometres to go. Safety first for Tinkoff Saxo. They're guiding Contador to where he needs to be. We've had a couple of bumps and bruises, a little bit more than that. Some decent sprinting names have been knocked out of today. They've had one look at the finish line so far. And indeed, we're looking down right now to see where I think Daya Quintana was the latest casualty today. Hitting the deck. There's not really much room for safety, not really much runoff. We're in the city of Genova. Our finish line beckons. We're on the circuit. Next time by will be at 9.5 kilometres to go. You'll hear the bell, the maritime bell, which I'm sure they're going to ring. Neptune's bell, you never know. But it's going to be busy, we know that. There is a ramp at the end. It's a nasty one. They'll have another view of it fairly soon. But our 5-men breakaway, who've done a great job today, and in fact, they have, of course, decided the King of the Mountains competition. The man who wears the yellow and black, who is Bert-Jan Lindemann for Lotto Jumbo, is our King of the Mountains leader. He'll have that jersey after the only categorised climb of the race so far has gone his way. Fraportia from Androni is in the break.
Down to 16 kilometers remaining in stage 2. We've had a number of incidents over the last 10 minutes or so. The gap between the Maglia Rosa and the 5 leaders now down under 40 seconds. We'll be back in just a moment. You're watching Bein Sports. Oh, we're down to the final 2 laps around the final circuit of the day. And there's still the same 5 men out in front of the race, although the peloton making a lot of room up very, very quickly here. Let's go ahead and send it back down to Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd. Just 13 kilometers remaining in stage 2.
Their entire team, Lobato was about 3rd in line, so I think he'll be liking the look of today's finish. They've seen it once, they'll see it again, and then the last time up they'll be going absolutely full gas, to coin a term used rather too often in cycling these days, all the way to the finish. It is going to be a sprint, perhaps not quite the sprint we were expecting when we saw the course on paper, but a sprint nonetheless.
So, strap yourselves in. This is going to get busy. Let's hope it doesn't get nasty. 12.9 kilometres to go. The pace is up, and you can see that some of the workers have already been shelled out of the bag. Well, there's so many teams with options on the day. There can only be one winner. We've made it clear who we think. It's not going to be the gentleman on the right-hand side of the road. That's for sure. But he's doing a good job.
Well, he hasn't done 170 Ks already, has he?
Well, exactly.
Well, I don't know that, but I'm assuming.
12.5 to go. Let's hope they stay safe, because they're going to come out of town and then head themselves back in. And that's when this gets very, very tasty. High curbs, keep away from those. You get a bit close on a downstroke and you're going to find yourself completely down, I've got to say. Last roll of the dice from the guys in the breakaway. Big approach. The choppers announce to the crowd that this is the end of today. There we are, we've gone arty all of a sudden, late on in this one. Contador, out favourite. Oh my goodness. Well, we said it was in the offing, a little bit of danger perhaps, and I think that may well have been the curb involved, somebody getting too close to the high curb, bouncing back in, and one of the Katusha boys is on the deck. He's down and it looks like he's staying down. Australian champion again.
Oh no.
He's going to have a very bad night's sleep, even if he manages to get back on the bike. Osvian decides to go again. Breakaway rider just having some fun with 11.8 to go, bidding for glory. I don't think he's going to be allowed off the hook. He's just about to head to that highway section where he makes that final turn. It's a terrible place to be on the deck.
Yeah, this presumably a group trying to get their riders back onto the main parts of the peloton, or is it the front group? It seems there was a split reasonably high up. Everyone trying to collect themselves, we trying to figure out who's where on the road. I shall be keeping an eye on my other monitor to keep you updated on any big names who are in any sort of trouble, but you can see exactly why Tinkoff Saxo, Team Sky and all of the others are right up towards the front.
Clever, clever stuff. Just while we're dwelling on an art shot, it was all kicking off behind. And Astana also just, again, keeping very safe. It's about Fabi Aru for them. Richie Port's boys, Team Sky also there, although they've got Viviani to play with today. Will it be his kind of day? Well, any sprinting day is his kind of day, and the last man standing from the breakaway, Ovzian, is about to be caught with 11 kilometres to go. Clever stuff, sensible stuff, solid performance by those with GC ambitions. And it will all come together. A bit more of a compression in the sprinters' teams, but it's a question of which manpower has been shelled out. Andre Greipel's just hoving into sight as well. The man who wears the German champions stripes across his chest. Never that far from the pointy end when it comes to sprinting. Him versus Matthews would be a good prediction on a day such as this with a ramp, and they're just about to approach that kick up again right now.
Yeah, and it looks like a fairly vastly reduced peloton from the overhead shot we had a few moments ago. That crash must have really opened a gap around midway down the bunch. Greipel there in the shot on the left-hand side, you said, Carlton, safe and sound towards the front, but that is quite a small group.
Wow.
We are bound to have, I think, a couple of big names, albeit sprinters, could be GC riders as well, towards the back. But as I said, I will keep an eye out on things and look at the race radio reports as well. And nothing bad has happened. We've got Cannondale Garmin in the next group behind doing their best to chase back on. Presumably that is for rider Hesdale, who is a rider who tends to steer or stay towards the back. Dangerous place to be if you're going for the stage.
Certainly. 10 kilometres to go then. We're heading for our final lap. They'll cross the line and hear the bell, and it does. Neptune's bell has been brought over from the Tirreno Adriatico, and it rings loud and clear in the ears of these guys. Andre Greipel moves himself to the front, doesn't want to get caught out by any safety issues, and so many today have tasted the tarmac. The Australian champion, unfortunately, on 2 separate occasions. There are gaps here. There'll be more later on when the quick boys start to build up pace. Lamprey look like they're big losers in this one. And
that was indeed the Canadian rider Hesdale of Cannondale Garmin, who was 4th in line from his team just a few moments ago. Here's another group just coming in somewhat further down. It's AG2R doing the work there. Let's have a look. Is it Pozzovivo? It is. Pozzovivo already losing some time after a crash. He's 4th in line here, just crossing the line now.
Oh, the stories that will be written tonight. You thought it was a quiet day, anything but. And as predicted, the barriers have taken a toll. You want to stay away from those, and if you veer from them, then you're going to get back into traffic. Wheels could touch, down you will go. You'll taste the tarmac, and it's a bitter taste indeed. Somebody, though, is going to feast themselves upon this stage. 9.2 kilometres to go. The main GC players are still up towards the front. They had to be there. They were on policing duties. Safe and sensible, keeping it. And the remainder of the sprinters will come to the fore. We're going to have some surprises today, Dan.
Yeah, we certainly are. And AG2 are under an enormous amount of pressure to try and get their team leader back into the front group before we get to the end of the stage in just 9K's time. That, I can tell you, is a very, very difficult job indeed. The speed at the front is just going to increase. Looked to me like they had 3 or 4 riders. Luckily for them, there is another group front of them, if they can latch onto that, hopefully they can make contact again. But these are the dangers of the opening sprint stages of all Grand Tours. Losing time through crashes, losing time through small gaps which open up at the sprint. And that, just to reiterate, is exactly why everyone is so nervous.
Greg Henderson and Adam Hansen are on hand for Andre Greipel. He might be able to do it all on his lonesome today. We'll see who's around him and who decides to follow his wheel. This might play into the hands of Phil Gill as well. Philippe Gilbert, former world champion. He can drive it into an incline. I believe he's as well for BMC. Sprandi Polkovici have got 5 men where they should be out front, but it's going to be a difficult call to decide who it is from their team that comes to the fore. Strength in depth, you might say, or just plain lucky. Well, you have to be clever in order to be in a position to take your luck. Right now, it looks like this is Andre Greipel's day, and he's in a very comfortable position, top and tail by teammates, and indeed those mustering around him. Michael Matthews and the white Young Riders jersey just comes up on the right-hand side of your screen. So Orica Greenedge have got more options with him as well. Could be a stage victory. Let's see if he can sing after 7.4 kilometres. Wow, they're going to head out on the highway and then back into the old town. This is nervous stuff, Dan.
Yeah, it certainly is. Just to keep you informed, I have seen Tom Danielson passing underneath our commentary box last back a stage winner here a couple of years ago as well. But all the action is just on our screens right now. The race still being dominated at the front by Tinkoff Saxo. This is the front of the race. Aru's team, Astana, are also up there as well. Team Sky safely ensconced towards the front. It's still being dominated by the GC teams. When will the sprinters teams come? They're just going to try and keep their energy for as long as they possibly can. This little climb is actually proving quite difficult because the bunch is so thinned down. We've got riders all over the place. Oh, very interesting to see who's behind in this group now.
It's wearing. That's, I think, the approach on this circuit that we're on right now. Viviani for Team Sky has got a great chance today. He's been going very, very quickly. He was looking for an early pink, and why not? Team Sky, they have the best of time trials yesterday, found themselves mid-table, not too much of a deficit, but he'll be looking to do something right here, right now. Dunkman against Viviani, Matthews, Greipel, and this is, well, nerves starting to fray, I think, and a little bit of frustration just showing up. There could be some big gaps today. These guys know that, so they're keeping the pressure on, really, and there's no shame in that, frankly. Why not take advantage when you can, especially when there's 3 of you to almost prey upon the carcass, which AG Tour, Mondial, Betancourt and Pozzovivo, it's bad news for them. They'll still be resting to try and get back in, but I still think they're behind a gap.
One thing that the crashes could have affected are lead-out trains, even if the sprinters themselves are up here towards the front, as we can see Greipel and Matthews very much are. How many of their teammates were caught out behind who will no longer be able to help them when it comes to the final 2 or 3 kilometres? I've seen a few riders hovering towards the back. Manuel Mori from Lampre Merida was really struggling to go past a number of riders who were dropping off the back. Still in front, Tinkoff Saxo, Ivan Basso relishing that domestiques role, which he slipped into with Alberto Contador having moved teams this year. No sprint trains really on our screens at the moment. It's still Sky, still Astana, and still Tinkoff Saxo. So
it could be that some GC riders find themselves with a bit of a gift, courtesy of the crashes that have caught out some of their rivals. Interesting to see Jon Izagirre is also up and in a decent place, the Spanish champion, with 5.5 kilometres to go. The pace is being maintained. It's a hard one as well, because this all of a sudden has become about the GC, about those men who are thinking about the title. They've got a great chance to find some time today, courtesy of the incidents that we've already seen.
Well, they're certainly not slowing down. Pozzovivo, you have to say, not one of the favourites for the podium, but he would have been knocking on the door of top 5. Haven't got any news as to exactly whereabouts he is on the road in terms of time gap to this group. His teammate Betancourt, meanwhile, who's been on horrid form already this season so far, is there in this main group towards the front, which looks to be around 80 or 90 strong still.
5.1 kilometres to go. We're rapidly approaching that do-or-die moment. It's going to be a turn with 950 minutes to go, and still the GC men are getting greedy for time. They'll take as much of it on a day like this as they possibly can get. If others have fallen by the wayside and then got back on the bike, then they'll have those gaps. Thank you very much. This is a sad sight.
Oh, Peter Seri, that looks like he's very injured. He's got cuts all over his face. He'll be doing very well just to finish today's stage, and he'll be looking this evening to go to hospital and try and recover and see if he can start again tomorrow. But still going off at the front, and these corners are really starting to play havoc with the riders. It's starting to stretch things out. The pace has continued to rise from Tinkoff, Saxo, Boaro, etc. doing a fantastic job for Constort on the front. This is going to be the story of the race, I think, for the next 3 weeks, especially on the sprint stages where they want to keep him out of trouble.
Michael Matthews in a great place. Andre Greipel looks like he's nice and relaxed. Ethics Quickstep just trying to muster themselves. It looks like Iran has stayed in a very, very safe place. Izagir from Movistar is also embedded, so some big GC names have actually made it past some of the incidents that we've had. And still the drive on goes, and it's still Tinkoff Saxo that are holding it with Astana. But here come Orica Greenedge, and this is for Michael Matthews. It looks like Lampre Merida have got back in the frame. I'm not sure if Modolo's here, but Ferrari is. 3.8 kilometres to go. So some chops and changes because of personnel that have been damaged, and that's Richese from Lampre that's in a bad place, who would have been expected to be part of their sprint push for Lampre in the pink. 3.5 kilometres only to go, and still the hurt is piled upon by Tinkoff Saxo. There is the red of Lotto Soudal with Andre Greipel in the white, but with the German champion's stripes across his breast. And alongside him, almost shoulder to shoulder, Michael Matthews. Viviani's also here for Sky. So it is going to turn into a pure sprinters day by the looks of things. Whoever can climb the best and who can stay safe. As Bardiani also have some options in here. Ruffoni, is he still here? What about some of their others in the lime green? What about Bataglin, the man who took that stage into Orpa? A tough stage. Well, it's been tough today, but in other ways, 2.9 to go.
Team Sky now taking over from Tinkoff Saxo on the front of the bunch. Experienced Austrian Bernie Eisel is the man doing the job at around about 55 to 60 kilometres per hour as they take this running into the last couple of Ks. Andre Greipel has got 2 riders in front of him now. This could be a little bit of a messy sprint because I don't see any large lead-out trains. We've got a few from Orica Greenedge, we've got a few from Lotto Beneteau, we've also got a few from Ethics Quickstep that you can see on the right-hand side of your screens in the turquoise blue, but it's all over the place right now. Team Sky one on the front. Richie Porte, I think, had a problem, but he's in the last 3K, so he'll be fine.
Little shimmy, a chicane almost left and right, and then a big turn. The last big turn, incidentally, comes with about 980 metres to go, so it'll be underneath the Flamme Rouge. Almost immediately, they will be upon that. 2.1, it says. The road mark is just slightly different. At the end of this big run right now, they will take that left-hander, and then, of course, they start the approach up to the final ramp today. Who's going to catch out? Lampre look feisty and up for this, and Bardiani are still maintaining their options. There's Andre Greipel keeping it sensible. 2 helicopters, almost a helicopter logjam. Stay away from each other, boys. That's been the watchword today as far as the riders are concerned. And they'll make that big turn coming up fairly shortly. And then it's the run for home and the kick-up ramp. Who's going to take some prisoners today, and who's going to take glory?
Well, let's not forget Elio Viviani as well, who's riding for Team Sky. They're here for Richie Porte. They've also got a fantastic sprinter in their team as well. He's safely up there inside the top 20. As a Lotto Beneteau, this is proving to be a very intriguing finish to the stage. Not just your pan flat finish that we often get in the big bunch sprints at the start of Grand Tours. Lots of riders still up there with a big chance of winning this stage.
It opens up, the ramp does beckon, and this is where the pain really starts. There's plenty of options as far as the road is concerned, but rolling the dice first, it looks like Orica Greenedge. Michael Matthews is in the centre of these guys. Truck Factory Racing, they're on board as well, trying to hobo that train ride home. Ethics Quickstep also involved. Greipel still keeping it sensible. He's not going for it just yet. He's got to be careful he doesn't get caught out. Ferrari and Modolo, I think it is, they're just opening up right now. They're reaching out. Matthews goes for it as well. Trekking ball with the Tolo. They're spreading wide, and here comes the gorilla. Greipel it is that takes centre stage. Can anybody stay with him? He's a powerful man. Will he be a rich man in the end? Today we'll see. He hits the barriers. He starts to run out of steam. Oh, is this Watford that's coming through? And Viviani also making a lunge. Oh, what a finish! What a finish! Viviani takes the day. Absolutely supreme. Amazing finish. Rock and roll to the line. We love that.
Viviani takes his first stage victory at the Giro d'Italia, something he's been fighting for years, ahead of Moreno Hoffland, Andre Greipel. What a finish we had there.
Wow, what about that? Moreno Hoffland beaten to second place, Greipel starting to fade on the ramp, and Viviani delivering. We enjoyed that. What a day. So many beaten up, I'm afraid, on the approaches. Tough. Oh, yes. Entertaining, most certainly. Viviani. So delighted. Yes, he shouts. Good boy. It's a team who are here for Richie Port, but they have a sprint option, and what a card to play. Eli Viviani has delivered. He's the ace in their pack.
Piano, cazzo, piano! Piano, no, soy yo. In onda. Yes, man, yes!
Here's the finish line. There was a wheel in it in the end. Greipel now a couple of bike lengths, 3 behind, as you can see. Michael Matthews, we suspect, is going to be in the leader's jersey. So not necessarily the sprint. You can see he's just being led out on the right-hand side of the group as we speak. But it was always going to be perhaps a centre stage for André Greipel. Well, when he went to the barriers, the gorilla not exactly beating his chest at the end of the day. In fact, he got beaten himself. This is how it unwound. Just look at Viviani's positioning. He got on board the lamprey train, held himself, waited, and in fact, as others started to reach out and grab for this, he was able to bide his time. This is André Greipel going on the inside, dragging Hofland into the affair. Michael Matthews just starting to fade on the ramp, and Viviani cleverly had switched from the right-hand side to the left. Waited, came out from behind Hofland and drove for the line as Greipel faded. Hofland must have believed he was in for glory. It was Viviani in the end. Terrific performance from Elio Viviani. Italy get a win. Genova cheered. Everybody else looked on. Here's your heads up of the finish. Clever stuff. Hypermobile Elio Viviani. This one's mine, he says.
Un grande spettacolo con Elio Viviani. Intanto l'applauso per tutti gli atleti, per tutti i corridori che vanno a tagliare il traguardo.
This is how stage 2 finished. Viviani taking it ahead of Hofland, Greipel, Mezgec in the frame. Pataki 5th, what a brave push by him. Nizzolo, Matthews, Apollinio, Colli and Tirolongo. Here's your overall standings then. Michael Matthews takes over the picture. Teammate Simon Gerrans. They also, of course, hold the Young Riders jersey. We'll have the King of the Mountains awarded today. Well, it goes to the breakaway rider, Lindemann. But the papers tomorrow will be all about an Italian victory. Coming early, that always tees up a good Giro d'Italia. And Elio Viviani has delivered.
Questo quinto posto di Alessandro Petacchi, il corridore in attività ad aver vinto il maggior numero di tappe al Giro d'Italia, 22, ma continuiamo ad applaudire.
Fuori dai coglioni!
Dei grandi protagonisti della corsa rosa che oggi hanno regalato delle emozioni incredibili, ancora con la soddisfazione, la gioia. Elio Viviani.
Finally you find some space going through the mob. There is Roberto guiding him to our position. We'll be having a chat with him in a few moments' time. We have a winner of the first proper racing stage after yesterday's time trial, and this is how it was delivered. Viviani was on the right-hand side of the road, and then he saw the master move, and he latched on to the second wheel behind André Greipel. That wheel, Hofland, it was a good choice. He went over the top and took what he deserved. Clever, clever racing, and here he is. Well, there he was. Just gathering himself, as we are. Well, terrific effort by Eli Viviani. This is how the overall standings stack up. Michael Matthews, Simon Gerrans and Cy Clark, your 1, 2, 3. Marco Greenedge maintaining that lead for Chavez there. Hope for the overall. Sky, of course, thinking about Richie Porte. Today, though, they were thinking about Viviani. There's Michael Matthews. He's our new leader.
Congratulations, Michael, into the pink jersey now, but 7th place on the day. Talk us through those final kilometres of the stage.
Yeah, it was a pretty technical final, fairly fast too, so you had to be in good position in that last kilometre, and we were maybe a little bit far back, so we made the decision to go early from the last corner, but yeah, maybe it was a little bit too early.
Looked like a nervous stage towards the end today.
Yeah, definitely. It was fast all day, so I think it was a pretty nervous stage all round. No one really knew what the wind conditions were going to be like off the water in the final, so yeah, I think everyone was fighting for position the whole day, and I think we were averaging maybe 50k an hour the whole day, so I think with the heat also it made an impact on the day that no one was really used to this sort of weather this time of the year, so yeah, I think altogether it made a pretty hard final.
Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tough final, but a big smile and a big broader still when he gets that leader's jersey. Well, we fly over the left-hand side of your screen, the old pirate ship that's docked here, and it was a raiding party that Sky brought out. Last man standing, Eli Viviani, and again the look at just how mobile and quick he was. A lot of road to play with. Great delivery. Here's our winner.
Elliot, you've been fighting for this victory for a long, long time. You must be feeling ecstatic now to have finally got the win.
Yeah, sure. It's incredible. So this year with the new team, have new motivation. So we are here for make a very good GC with Richie and win the Giro with Richie. And I don't have so much guys for the final, but so you see, today the guys make perfect work for Richie and also for me, because in the last corner, Salva, Puccio and Bernie make in the last 3K incredible work for me.
Tell us about the last 500 metres. Greipel looked to be the first to go, but Hofland was very strong as well.
Yeah, sure. I see Hofland win last week in Yorkshire, and I think today when I see in the sprint, I think this is a good wheel. Maybe Greipel started the sprint so really long, but I know the road go a little bit up, and I wait the true moment for start my sprint, and so I'm really happy.
Well done, congratulations.
Thanks, really thanks.
Happy, exhausted, emotional, but a day's winner, and Italy celebrates.
È stato, come abbiamo già avuto modo di dire, il proprio guizzo del pistata, quello che ha concesso a Elia Viviani di andare a compensare questa affermazione. Dicevamo un'affermazione importante, tra qualche istante Elia Viviani salirà sul podio dove è già presente il mio collega Paolo Meia.
So we've reached the end of stage 2, and it is the Italian victory. Elia Viviani for Team Sky goes across the line first. Michael Matthews takes the pink. Bert-Jan Lindemann goes into the blue, and Michael Matthews also the young rider jersey in the white. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with the podium after this on Bein Sports. Welcome back. We've reached the conclusion of stage 2. These are some of the highlights from today's stage in the Giro d'Italia. It was really the first proper day of racing is what they've called it. It took us from Albenga to Genova, 177 kilometers, 110 miles, if that's your preferred method of measurement. And it was a long day. Most of the day was led out by 5 men who went out very early on and stayed out there for the majority of the race. We did have a number of crashes throughout the race, though, including a big crash right over about 20 kilometers left to go. A lot of the IM cycling crew going down in that race. Sylvain Chavanel, Alex Saramotins, Matteo Palucchi, Heinrich Hausler, all from IM cycling, all going down right here in that collision. There would be a few more crashes as the day would continue. Dyer Quintana from Movistar took a nasty fall right here. Got up, did finish the race, however. There was one more crash toward the end of the race that split the peloton. 10 men crashed in that one. But when it was all said and done, and it got down to the final sprint, it was Elia Viviani racing with a new team. Team Sky goes out in front and beats Moreno Hofflin coming up from behind to beat out the Lotto Jumbo rider by a wheel right at the end. Andre Greipel gave it a good go. The big German finishes in third place, though. Here's a look at Elia Viviani claiming his prize. He will be all over the newspapers tomorrow. Of course, he is Italian, so he's getting a lot of love from the home crowd here. Winner of stage 2. And he'll get to shower some of the fans with Prosecco as well. Team Sky claiming their first honor thus far on the tour. Elia Viviani, not even the favored member of this team in terms of the general classification favorites. Richie Porte is the man who Sky wants to get out in front. And there's a look at the final 3 riders, or rather the first 3 riders across the line. All of them get the same time, but Elia Viviani does get the bragging rights. He takes stage 2 by a wheel. So a look at the finish line here as we've reached Genova. We do have a couple of interviews. Let's go ahead and send it down to race level.
But first day of the Giro d'Italia on the road in the breakaway and straight onto the podium must be quite a good feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. It was the plan of the team to get someone in the break for the mountain sprint, and I was happy I can deliver.
And after one the World Tour, it must be feeling good to be back in these biggest races in the world.
Yeah, it's a special feeling, especially like in Romandie I was 3rd in the States, and then this. It's just a great feeling to be back with all my friends in the peloton. It's just good.
So that was Bert-Jan Lindemann of Lotto Jumbo. He goes into the blue jersey today. There was just one categorized climb on the day. It was a category 4 climb, the Prato Zanino. And it was Bert-Jan Lindemann across the line first on that one. So he goes into the blue jersey, but your new general classification leader. And going into the pink, Michael Matthews of Orica Green Edge. It was his teammate Simon Gerrans who came across the line first in yesterday's team time trial. Michael Matthews would go into the white jersey, which he still lays claim to, although he will not be wearing it tomorrow. He will be wearing the pink instead as the new race leader and the leader of the general classification. And so the top 3 in the general classification now, Michael Matthews as well as 2 of his teammates. Simon Gerrans, the winner of the team time trial yesterday, is in number 2. And Simon Clark, also of Orica Green Edge, is 3rd in the standings. But Michael Matthews right now in possession of the coveted pink jersey and your race leader. Just 24 years of age, Michael Matthews, and still a very bright career ahead of him. Also a number of professional wins. Now this puts him out in front. 26 wins in his professional career in terms of stage wins. Does not get the stage win today, but he's probably far happier being in the pole position here at the Giro d'Italia. Michael Matthews actually came across the line as the 7th rider today. Other honorable mentions, Luca Mezgec of Team Giant Alpecin came across the line 4th. Alessandro Petacci of Southeast Pro Cycling came in 6th across the line. Giacomo Nizzolo of Trek Factory Racing coming just in front of Michael Matthews. But that 7th place finish, just enough to put him into the lead. And of course, still a number of jerseys to hand out, and by virtue of being the first pure stage winner so far this year. Elia Viviani is going to go into the red jersey as well as the points classification leader of the Giro d'Italia.
Veste la maglia rossa, un corridore italiano in forza al team Sky. Gli applausi di Genova ancora una volta sono per Elia Viviani.
There's the man again, his second time out to the podium today. He's going to be all over the front pages of the Italian newspapers, particularly Gazzetta dello Sport. And he will be celebrated for at least 24 hours in his home country. And he will sport the red jersey tomorrow. That's going to do it for our coverage here today. And again, thank you for joining us. Join us tomorrow for stage 2 as we go from Rapallo to Sestri Levante, 136 kilometers. And tomorrow's stage is categorized as a medium mountain stage, 85 miles. And it should be a joy to watch as we are officially underway now here at the Giro d'Italia. And so in conclusion, it's time to say goodbye. For Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd, I'm Gino Fuentes. Join us again tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time here on Bein Sports.